Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Willmar City Council meeting for Tuesday, January 22nd, 2008. Roll call.
Mayor Heitke.
Here.
Councilmember Reese.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Swenson.
Here.
Gardner.
Here.
Dockin.
Here.
Fagerly.
Here.
DeBleek.
Here.
9 present, 0 absent.
Thank you, Kevin. It's our practice to begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening and welcome to the City Council chambers, to our citizens who are here tonight in the room, and to all the citizens who are watching this meeting on our local access cable vision. Tonight, we have a large consent agenda to begin with, and then we have the Mayor's State of the City Address, which is an annual task that I present to the city the information about how the city is doing. And I usually like to provide a history of last year, a brief history, and then an outlook for 2008. Then we have a variety of committee reports and some consideration of some plats that are being developed here in the city. So, to begin with, the city council members have the option of adding something or changing something on the agenda. Does the council have anything they want to change or add to the agenda? If not, we will then move to the consent agenda.
Mayor Heitke. We'd like to add an action on the wastewater treatment plant interceptor sewer project.
Under miscellany?
Under miscellany.
All right. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, then the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second for the consent agenda. In the consent agenda are the minutes of a variety of city committees that meet between the city council meetings. There's also an application for an exempt permit from Willmar Fest for next summer. And I have 2 citizens that I'm recommending to the city council to be appointed to boards. The first is Dr. Steve Gardner. Steve is a local dentist who's been in practice in this community for many, many years.
I'll bet it's Mike.
Mike Gardner. This is Steve Gardner over here. Dr. Mike Gardner. Mike has a long-standing practice and a business and raised his family. I've asked him if he'd be willing to serve on the Rice Hospital Board of Directors. One of the reasons for that is that Rice is developing a dental clinic that is now moving forward very strongly, and I'd like to see a dentist on the hospital board. And Mike said that he would be willing to do that. The other person is a former city council member named Vince Van Hevelen. I'm recommending that he be appointed to the Zoning Appeals Board. This is a board that meets infrequently, kind of on an as-needed basis, meets maybe 4 or 5 times a year. And Vince was a former city council member about 10 years ago, and I asked him if he'd be willing to come back and serve on a board. So those 2 names I'm adding to the consent agenda. Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to pull the Planning Commission minutes of January 9th.
All right.
Mayor,
Councilmember
I would
DeBleek.
like to pull the Municipal Utility Commission minutes of January 14th.
All right. Anyone else on the City Council that wishes to discuss any other minutes? If not, the consent agenda then includes the minutes of the Rice Hospital Board for January 9th, the Building Inspection Report for the month of December, the Police Commission minutes of December 14th, the Housing Redevelopment Authority minutes of December 11th and December 19th, the Senior Citizens Council minutes of January 2nd, the Zoning Appeals Board of January 14th, the application for an exempt permit for Willmar Fest. There's a request from Councilmember DeBleek to go out of state. I hope you come back, Bruce. And then the 2 citizens that are being recommended for the Hospital Board and the Zoning Appeals Board. With the exception of those two groups of minutes that were pulled, those in favor of approving the rest of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The consent agenda is approved. Now we go to the two sets of minutes that were pulled. Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask a question of staff, if I could, Mr. Peterson. Regarding the item in the minutes, item number 4, Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership Plan Unit Development Conditional Use Permit. I'd like to ask Mr. Peterson to explain a little bit about conditional use permits. The way I understand this, and this comes from a PowerPoint from the League of Minnesota Cities, is that sometimes cities misunderstand the level and nature of the discretion that they have when considering a conditional use. If the use satisfies standards, a council must grant a conditional use, and that it is a permitted use to which reasonable conditions may be attached based upon factual evidence contained in public record. And I would just ask if Mr. Peterson would expand on that just a little bit. Is that essentially correct?
Mayor Heike, Councilmember Gardner. The definition offered by Councilmember Gardner is very much correct. A conditional use has a presumption of appropriateness, of correctness, of validity within the zone in which it is listed in a zoning ordinance. Specifically, they are listed as conditional uses because there may be something unique about the particular use that warrants an additional level of scrutiny by the Planning Commission or the Council. But Mr. Gardner is correct in that the use is assumed to be valid, it is assumed to be permitted, and so long as the findings established by council within a zoning ordinance are met, there is very little room for discretion on the part of the council to deal with those types of requests.
Thank you, Bruce. And that satisfies my question. And at that, I would move to file the minutes.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to file the minutes of the Planning Commission for January 9th, 2008. Further comment and discussion from the council members. Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is, since this is a conditional use permit and the Planning Commission, both county and city, has been under some discretion in the past, that we owe it to the 5 members of the council that were not attendant at the Planning Commission meeting to at least see some of the evidence that was passed over by the Planning Commission. We did have one no vote on there. It was a 5-to-1 vote. And the person that voted no must have had a valid reason, thinking that maybe one of these 7 conditions or 7 criteria that had to be met wasn't met. I would ask at this time that maybe Mr. Goodeman could present his plan, because 5 council members did not see that at the Planning Commission either, followed by Scott Thaden's PowerPoint presentation. I don't think it's very long, but it will show that there are some discretion, or there's some 3 of the criteria that should be met are not met, according to his PowerPoint. And I think we owe it to the 5 council members that weren't there to at least see that evidence.
I would agree with you in terms of the order of presentations. If we do this, I'd like to have Mr. Goodeman present first, and then Mr. Thaden present second. Mr. Goodeman, are you ready to do that with your PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, certainly, but it's not directly answering Mr. Christensen requested for me that I can do a general presentation and we could present the plan.
Okay. Let me explain something to the audience here tonight. This is not a public hearing. This is, we're approving minutes of meetings that have already taken place. So the fact that there are so many people here expresses and shows your concern about this issue. But tonight we are not going to have a list of presenters. I think I will allow Mr. Goodeman, who is in charge of this project and proposing it to the city to present his ideas and PowerPoint, and then I'll let Mr. Jaden, am I saying it?
Scott Thaden.
Thaden, Mr. Thaden present, but I'm not going to let other people present. You know, they did that at the Planning Commission. That was the public hearing at the Planning Commission. So let's do this. Mr. Goodeman, would you present your project verbally and then go to your PowerPoint presentation? And then Mr. Thaden, if you'd be ready. Where's Mr. Thaden? All right, if you'd be ready, secondly. Rick?
Mr. Mayor, if I could have our engineer present.
Absolutely. All right. Maybe you could stand kind of there and face that direction.
We got to use the mic.
Got to have a mic.
Or take the handheld if it won't work any other way.
Hold on, we get
One of the two
our
options.
technology together. And would you introduce yourself, your name, and who you represent?
My name is Chuck Brandel. I'm with INS Engineers and Architects out of Mankato and representing Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. And I'll present the plat for Westwind's Estates 3rd Edition. The plat consists of 28 twin lots and 6 single-family lots and a park and an outlot for a stormwater retention pond. The plat includes an extension of 16th Street Southwest, pardon me, 23rd Avenue Southwest, 17th Street Southwest, and 22nd Avenue Southwest. There's a park dedicated per the previous plat. There is a in-place drainage easement that goes through the property right now. That is anticipated to be maintained. There's a large storm pipe that goes through the property. Now let's flip this around. It's a better picture. And that is to be maintained and then diverted into a proposed stormwater pond. The stormwater pond is proposed to be maximize the area here, to be oversized for because of some potential stormwater issues in the area. Utilities will be extended, sanitary, water, storm sewer throughout the project to serve all of the lots. Water main will be looped. From a plat standpoint, that's a brief overview of the plat.
All right, thank you. If you have handouts, would you give them to our city clerk over here, please?
Mr. Mayor, would you like me to go through the specifics of the project in
Yes.
the details? Okay. The product types that we're looking at, and as Chuck indicated, we're looking at 20 different lots, 34...
For the record, Rick, would you
Sure.
introduce yourself?
I'm sorry.
please?
My name is Rick Goodeman. I'm the Executive Director of the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. I apologize for that oversight. The project is designed to hit 3 specific markets that were supported within the housing study and then later supported within a market analysis conducted by Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. We're looking at single-family detached for-sale units, lease-to-own units, and then 6 permanent rental units. The number of single-family detached for sale are 6. The number of lease-to-own are 22 units, which consist of twin homes. And then the permanent rental are also twin homes, and those are 6 units for a total of 34 units. The finished area on the single-family detached homes will range from 979 square feet to 1,200 square feet. There is an additional expansion unit or expansion space of 899 to 1,120 square feet, which are the lower floors. The expansion areas include partially finished lower levels, stubbed-in plumbing connections, framed partition walls, and egress windows. The units will be designed as general occupancy, family units with attached garages, and be wood frame, one-story twin homes. Several concepts are under design review for this project. Jorge, if you could put those out, please. The construction will incorporate basic green materials, including energy-efficient design, Energy Star-rated appliances, high R-factor insulation, energy-efficient windows and doors. Recycled building materials will be utilized, and construction techniques will be incorporated that reduce waste and recycle waste materials. Other green features will include cement fiber siding, 30-year asphalt shingles, energy-efficient lighting, and low-flow plumbing fixtures. Environmental testing devices will be incorporated into the units, including radon mitigation, carbon monoxide testing equipment, and smoke detectors. The project, because of its funding, has different income guidelines. The single-family detached for sale units will be governed by 80% of statewide median income. For an example, a family of 4 would need to make $55,000 annually or less. The Section 42 lease to own would be 60% of area median income. The income that would generate for a family of 4 would be $34,500. And as a family resides in the unit, the income can increase, and there are no restrictions. And then the Section 42 supportive housing, 60% of area median income. Those also will have project-based rental assistance with those 6 units. When we looked at this project, we also looked at census data, and we also looked at the 2007 projections. The 2000 census reports the City of Willmar median household income was at $33,879. So one half of the population had incomes below that, one half of the populations had income above that. 51.7% of all households had incomes below $35,000 annual income. The 2007 projections from Claritas show that the median household income is $38,974, with 46% of all the households in Willmar earning $34,999 or less annual income. So we feel that with 46% of the population in the community, that falls well within these income guidelines that govern this project. The projected rents under the lease to own, 2-bedroom units will rent for $561. That does include utilities, and the 3 bedrooms for $685. Under the permanent rental, 2 bedrooms $498, and 3-bedroom units $645. Again, that does include the utilities. The lease to purchase has been proven to be effective in serving underserved or unserved housing markets. And that's defined as markets lacking access to capital, down payment, or other traditional underwriting standards. And what this does is it allows the lease payments to accumulate towards the actual acquisition of the property. So there's a 15-year period where we work extensively with the families, and at the end of the 15-year compliance period, governed under Section 42, the home is, at that point, becomes the property of the leasee. And there's a 4-step process in this, whereas the tenant or leaseor stays in the property, there's steps towards home ownership. The way that this works as far as coming to the sales price structure at the end of the 15-year lease, the value that we're estimating these homes to have would be $170,000, and the purchase price will end up being between $65,000 and $75,000. And this consists of closing costs to purchase the units. There's a tenant incentive, meaning the longer the leasee stays in the property, $1,000 per year is deducted off the sales price, up to $10,000. There's a reserve funded to deal with any incipient types of repairs at the end of the 15-year period. Exit taxes, which are owed by the investor, of $2,000, and then residual debt of $50,000. which is how we achieve, how we get to the $65,000 to $75,000 sale price. Currently, there are mortgage products that work with the Community Land Trust product that we're talking about, lease to own, and we are assuming that in 15 years there should be more products, because right now this is a specialized market. And we have met with Wells Fargo and Bremer Bank in your community, and both have products that currently serve this market. The way the permanent affordability works with the Community Land Trust and the lease to own and the single-family homes will be under a Community Land Trust. And what this does is we have received funds from Minnesota Housing Finance Agency that will allow us to acquire the property and pay for all of the improvements to the property as a grant. And so when the people purchase the property, what they are not carrying the financing costs of the improved lots. For that, we do have some, the whole purpose of the Community Land Trust is to make these homes permanently affordable. So there are some restrictions on the appreciation that are allowed in the transaction. So using the example on page, the last page, if the home purchase price is $75,000, the initial appraised value is $175,000. At the end of 6 years, if there's appreciation of the appraised value, and we're using some estimates here of $227,000, and that's based on information that was provided in the market study, the net value appreciation will be $52,500. Typically, a homeowner would take that entire appreciation. But because we are using a Community Land Trust and because they aren't financing the underlying land and improvements, the buyer would receive the initial sales price of $75,000. We would allow 25% of the appreciation to go to the buyer plus any improvements they make to the property. So the resale would be $88,125. And the same method would continue for subsequent buyers. Without permanent affordability, buyer A purchased the home for $170,000, appraised value upon resale $227,500, net value appreciation of $107,500. Buyer A takes $57,500. Buyer B purchased the home for $227,500.
All right. Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Goodeman? Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rick, thank you for presenting tonight. One of the questions that folks have had that I have visited with, and one of the statements that I have heard, is that this is entirely 100% government subsidized. And I'm having a little trouble understanding that, given that there's an item in here called tax credits. And is that a government subsidy, or is that private money?
That is investor. We receive an allocation of tax credits, and those are sold to investors, and then investors put capital into the project. And I'd also like to point out that there is a mortgage product involved with all of these transactions. So people have to qualify for the loan, and they have to have good credit history, and they have to go to their local bank, and that would either be Bremer or Wells Fargo currently in this market that have this product.
So they have to have jobs. They have to have good credit.
Yes.
And one of the other things that I guess I have seen is that there are 4 words in your previous presentation that I think folks have latched onto a little bit, that this is providing affordable home ownership to the lowest income residents. Now, for some, that conjures up some type of welfare housing. That's not true, is it?
No, it's not. Again, we're addressing 3 separate markets. 6 of the units are targeted to very low-income folks. The remainder of the units are moderate income, what are considered low to moderate income people, 60% or less of very median income, and then the single family go up to $55,000. And in fact, when we looked at the Claritas projections, 46% of the current households in this community would qualify.
And in talking about those supportive units, those are for folks who are having some difficulty in transitioning, for example, out of a situation, and might it not be, for example, someone, say a woman and her family leaving the shelter house, having to transition out of there? Would that be the type of person that might be able to use that supportive housing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's what it's designed for.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Christensen. then
Thank you,
DeBleek.
Mr. Mayor. You said 6 of the units, Rick, were for low income, or how did you describe that? 6 of them for?
Those units will have Section 8 project-based assistance
So
through
this is-
Candiota County. So those could assist people with very low incomes. They could also assist people as high as 60%.
So 6 of them will be eligible for Section 8 housing.
Those are rental units, yes.
Okay, and
And 2 of the units would use Section 8 for home ownership.
Section 8 housing isn't that a voucher program?
That's a Section 8 voucher program, and that also does go to working families.
How does one qualify for Section 8 housing? What is there an income limit, or is there a no income limit?
There's absolutely an income limit.
There is, but it's for, as you described, the lowest income, I think you stated.
It can go down to very, very low-income folks. It can also go up to people who are working. It's a very flexible program.
Okay. I notice also on here that you said the Partners Research Group documented a 30% increase in median home sales value between 2002 and 06 in Willmar, which is about a 7.5% appreciation per year. Do you think that's going to continue?
That's hard to say in this current marketplace, so that's why we used a lesser amount. But yes, it was documented 7.5% per year
Okay.
during that term.
I went on the internet and researched several housing studies, low-income housing studies, and there's a myriad of them on there. Some saying that low-income housing depreciates the value of the houses next, and some say it doesn't have any. But most of them said Section 8 housing next to an already developed area does decrease the value. Section 42 housing, entry-level housing, seems to be fine. It's a myth that they decrease value of anything nearby. And they used it by a per block basis. The farther you get away, the less it affects you, of course. But those that are directly next to Section 8 housing, it states clearly in there that there is a decrease in their property value, which would go against one of the criteria for the conditional use permits, which states, will it have an effect on the houses next to it? And I think we'll see that in Scott Thaden's presentation. But I did want to
Mr.
bring that up.
Christensen, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Would you please define Section 8 housing?
I guess I would use yours and Mr. Gardner's, the lowest of the low income.
Well, you're defining the clientele. You're not defining the units. What are you talking about? Are you talking high density? Are you talking low density? Are you talking
I'm using
about
your
scattered site?
definition, which Mr. Gardner, you agreed to his definition. He said, would this be the lowest of the low income? And you said yes, and that's how I would define Section 8 housing.
Section 8 serves a broad income stream, and I think you need to put it in context of the studies that you're quoting. If you're quoting something like Cabrini Green, where you're talking about
LM2.
1,000 or thousands of units, there may be some documented information. We're talking about 6 units scattered through this development that I don't see will have any appreciable impact, because you're talking about a very small number of units.
Well, you and I see this differently, that's why.
Well,
That's completely
no,
different.
I'm also have looked at those studies as well. And that's one of the reasons for moving away from high-density, low-income housing, such as Cabrini Green in Chicago. We're not talking about the same thing.
Okay.
Councilmember DeBleek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rick, questions on the community land trust that concept. Has that been used before
Yes.
in Minnesota? Have you used that concept before in any of your financing packages that you put together?
We have not personally used it before. It's been used on the East Coast starting about 30 years ago. It's been used in Minnesota for, I believe, 20 years, starting in the high land value areas. We didn't see much of a use for it until about 3 to 4 years ago when the inflationary pressures were pushing the cost of housing beyond entry level, and then we had to start looking at other types of financing mechanisms to make that work.
And just a couple question on the concept of that. There, the length of time that the property would go into the land trust, is that there a fixed time period? Is there buyout options, or and what is that time period?
There is some flexibility that can be adopted by the Community Land Trust Organization, which would consist of members from Willmar on the board. But it's typically done for 198-year or 298-year leases is the concept. But there are buyout provisions. There's other things that the Community Land Trust can do if it's not working, things of that nature. But we'd have to go back to the funding sources.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Dockin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Goodeman.
Thank you.
I came prepared tonight to vote against this and plan to. After receiving a letter today that was sent by an attorney from your organization to all of the council members. His letter was dated the 19th, which was last Friday. Very strange. We received it today, the 22nd, the date of the hearing. I'm not sure whether I take this as information or intimidation on this project, but I don't like it at all. And I'd like to share it, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Jim, I'm going to read it for you.
Okay, that's fine.
As I will read other letters here, too.
Okay, fine. You know, back a number of years ago, Mr. Lincoln, after Gettysburg, said that government should be of the people, by the people, and for the people. That's who you see here tonight. When I ran for council 10 years ago in 1998, my literature said, I'm going to be the voice of the people, okay? This is not government of the government, by the government, and for the government. It's of the people, by the people, and for the people. That's who I intend to vote for tonight.
The letter that Mr. Dockin, Councilmember Dockin, is referencing is a letter that was received here at City Hall from a Mr. Jack Kane, and I'll read it into the public record and for the audience. It's regarding a conditional use permit, Westwind's Estates. We are a public interest law firm representing Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership in this matter. Given the staff and Planning Commission support for the conditional use permit, there is no need to elaborate on the fact that this project meets all requirements for a conditional use permit, and the City Council is thus obligated to issue one. Rather, given the disturbing tenor of opposition to our client's request, we feel it is important to make several other important points. The project can be built as proposed whether or not the conditional use permit is granted. The only reason the permit is necessary is to permit home ownership in the project. Without the permit, the project will be built as rental housing. Thus, any legally relevant concerns about the permit would necessarily be based on the assertion that offering ownership opportunities rather than rental is contrary to public health, safety, or welfare. Statements of opponents to the project were wholly lacking in any support for such a proposition, and thus all opposition was irrelevant. Minnesota courts have repeatedly stressed that denial of a conditional use permit may not be based solely on the mere fact that neighbors oppose the project. In this case, because opponents have cited no facts legally relevant to the request for a permit, the opposition itself must be disregarded by the City Council in its consideration of the permit request. Public hearings regarding the project on July 16th and January 9th were rife with comments indicating the belief that residents of affordable housing like that proposed lower surrounding property values and are transient, fail to maintain their homes, and are prone to crime. That affordable housing lowers surrounding property values has repeatedly been shown to be pure myth. Statements opponents implying that firefighters, police officers, city clerks, nurses, nurses' aides, and similar households who need housing at the prices proposed by this project will be poor neighbors simply have no rational basis in fact and reflect the inaccurate stereotypes of people who occupy lower income housing. The courts have held that the improper motivation of project opponents will be attributed to city officials who reject a zoning request based on that opposition and lawsuits challenging the rejection. While these decisions have typically been in the context of federal Fair Housing Act claims, we point out that principle would apply to discrimination based on opposition to public decisions supporting publicly housing under the Minnesota Human Rights Act. Signed, Jack Kane. Mr. Dockin, did you want to say anything else?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do you believe that the last statement, the courts have held that the improper motivation of project opponents will be attributed to city officials who reject a zoning request based on that opposition in lawsuits challenging the rejection? And then you show a number 4, which there are 5, I guess, court cases. Do you think that applies in Willmar? I mean, because it applied here, does it necessarily apply in Willmar? Or a court is going to determine that. Is that what you're saying?
That is what Jack Kane's opinion is, yes.
Do you believe that?
I believe that if this is turned down for the reasons so far stated, that that could be true, yes.
Thank you.
I would also like to respond. You've indicated that, or at least implied, that we're a government agency. We are not. We're a private nonprofit development corporation. I would also like to say that you're saying that you represent the people, but I think you should represent all the people, including the minority side of an issue, and I'm hoping that you would do that as well.
Mr. Goodman, did you want to give a PowerPoint presentation here?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's go to that at this point.
Just need to
mute.
remember.
Just aim it right here at AV mute.
And hit what?
Hit the AV mute.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
This is a general presentation because the quality of our homes have been called into question, and also a lot of our programs and basic tenets that we use in developing. Our mission is to provide a sufficient supply of adequate, safe, sanitary, and affordable dwellings to ensure health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of southwestern Minnesota. So we strive to provide quality housing in areas where there's unmet need. Okay, how would I move it? I suppose I can just use this. Yeah. The Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership was formed as a 501c3 organization on May 21, 1992. We originally were formed to serve a 14-county area, and today we are serving 30 counties. The agency has developed, financed, or rehabilitated nearly 6,200 housing units, provided over $280 million investment into the region, and has facilitated the education and counseling of over 4,500 households. We have a staff of 17 and regularly contracts with 5 other organizations to provide an additional 20 staff on our projects. Our customers are primarily local units of government, economic development authorities, housing and redevelopment authorities, and nonprofit organizations. We were originally formed to support economic development growth because of severe workforce housing shortages in the area. Our primary services are community planning and technical assistance, homeownership education and finance, land development and redevelopment, single-family housing development, multifamily development, and housing preservation and rehabilitation. That's the service area that we serve. The large red are rehabilitation. The smaller ones are multifamily development. The green are single-family development. And the small dots are planning and technical assistance to local units of government. Community planning services, we provide assistance with housing studies, meaning financial assistance. We secure planning grants. We help communities with community development plans. We perform project feasibility analysis. We obtain financing grants. We provide project and program development services and financial packaging. Creating affordable lots. One of the ways we like to contain costs, if we can, is to use smaller lot sizes, 55 to 65 feet, and also intersperse those with lot frontages that range from 70 feet to 90 feet. Narrower streets, 32-foot streets were used in Nicollet Meadows. Efficient lot layout, minimizing streets. Surface stormwater control reduces costs. That was used in Hutchinson, in Rolling Meadows. Creating affordable homes. We look at smaller homes, starting from 920 square feet to 1,180 square feet, finished living area. The homes are constructed using simpler designs, reducing corners and roof changes. Expansion space is provided. And again, that's expansion space for minimal increase of expense that people can move into and double their living area. Low maintenance, energy efficient materials are utilized, including high efficiency appliances. Some affordable designs in St. Peter and Worthington. Top one is a streetscape, and those are two affordable homes that were developed. Two-story home. This is the home that I hardly recognized in Mr. Thaden's presentation. This home is in Nicollet Meadows. It's called the Green Home because it was a green pilot project. The siding is hardy plank siding. So when you see Mr. Thaden's presentation, it looks like it was hit with hail. I'm not quite sure how that was accomplished, but this is the picture of the home. It's 1,972 square feet. The lower level was also finished, so it's 3 floors finished. These are bungalows. These are actually out of an old Sears catalog. 1,060 finished square feet with 980 expansion space. We also do homestead projects where we acquire blighted homes, rehab the homes, and then resell those to low to moderate income families. Those are existing neighborhoods, and we find that this does improve property values around these homes if we take them over and fully rehabilitate them. Employer-assisted projects, we've worked with a number of employers. Parkway Development 1, Schwann's sales put in $423,000. Parkway 2, they increased their donation to $1,800,000. River Bluff Estates, Toro, and Wyndham PM participated. Maritonka in Nicollet, 18 employers, provided $241,000. Whispering Winds, Pipestone, 108. Central Square in St. Peter, Gustavus Adolphus and St. Peter School District donated funds. And that's the Parkway development. Parkway 1 is fully developed. The area Mark C is under development now. Multifamily development, we provide services relating to the development of quality affordable rental housing, primarily using Section 42, which is low-income housing tax credits, but we've also used state bonds, revenue bonds, community development block grants, and development subsidies. The project that's shown there is Central Square in St. Peter. It has underground parking. It is elevated, has a car wash, and it's mixed income primarily. Actually, 70% is low income, 30% is market rate. Here's some examples of multifamily. These are all tax credit projects located in Pipestone, Worthington, Marshall, and I believe St. Peter. The twin home, like we're proposing to build here in Willmar. The ones we're proposing in Willmar would be slightly smaller, but would have the brick facade, the permanent siding, and a couple of the designs have covered porch areas. Nicollet Meadows, this is a mixed income townhomes. Just another shot of the developed neighborhood. Downtown redevelopment, this is a tax credit project, a historic redevelopment in Olivia. It's on Highway 212 and Lincoln. The top picture is before, the bottom picture is after. We were able to preserve the old bank. There's 2 commercial spaces on the first floor and 8 rental properties on the upper 2 floors. The central function bond projects, Ashmore Place in Montevideo and Park Place in Wells, Minnesota. In Wells, we took down blighted homes and put these projects in place. The city issued essential function bonds, which are tax-exempt bonds, to build these. In special needs housing, we do work with local service providers to provide housing for seriously and persistently mentally ill folks, homeless persons, victims of domestic abuse, and seniors with services. And then we also do a lot of preservation of existing housing. The bottom photograph is the Viking Terrace property in Worthington. We acquired the building, fully rehabilitated using a bunch of different financing sources. And then community development and preservation programs, we work with a lot of communities on rehabilitation, providing funds from a number of different sources, the largest of which is the Small Cities program. And in fact, we've contributed or pledged over $200,000 to your current project in Willmar. So we also find funds and pledge those to existing projects. And that's in partnership with the Candiota County HRA and the Willmar HRA. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Goodeman.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I'm going to ask Mr. Staden if he wants to make some comments and then use his PowerPoint presentation. Scott, can you introduce yourself, your address?
Let me get this set up. My name is Scott Staden. I live at 1813 22nd Avenue Southwest. My home is just adjacent to the proposed planned unit development.
Scott, before you start your PowerPoint, would you just tell us why you're concerned about this?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that need to be said, especially in speaking with Councilmember Gardner. The first and foremost is that we need to take the people out of this equation. This is not about who or what or what's going to happen in those homes, the people that are going to live in those homes. This is about a development that was planned one way, met some resistance, got planned another way, and shoehorned into a situation Mr. Goodeman got in and Minnesota Housing Partnership got in to make something work in a space that they had purchased. That's bare bones and simple. That's what this project is about. It's about, and as my PowerPoint will show, they don't meet the criteria. I think it was overlooked by the Planning Commission. They don't meet some of the criteria that our city standards require for conditional use projects.
Thank you.
Sorry. So first and foremost, what I want to propose to you or prove to you is that this project does not meet the standards of a conditional use project in this neighborhood. Particularly number 6 on the list, which is that the use conforms or is complementary to the neighborhood characteristics where it is located. And that the exterior architectural appearance and functional plan of those improvements are compatible in terms of quality with what's already there. It does not conform or is complementary to the neighborhood characteristics. There are no twin homes in the area, in the immediate area. Yes, you can go half a mile down to 8th Street and 9th Street, and there are plenty of twin homes there. But in the immediate area, there are none. You're essentially creating an island of leased units in a sea of occupied single-family homes. And I will be the first one to step forward and say the homes that Southwest Minnesota Housing built along Richland Avenue, we were all scared about what was coming in there. They turned out pretty okay. They turned out that way. Some of what we're discussing tonight is the fear of the unknown. But we have to run with what we know, and I think we'll talk about some of that in a few minutes. This development begins in the middle of a block. There are 6 single-family homes to the west, and you would put 12 or 6 twin homes, 12 units on the rest of the block, double the population. All homes built on land owned by the homeowner. Lease to own, just by its concept, is inconsistent with what's there. Excuse me. The proposed home sizes are smaller than any in the immediate vicinity. My house, right next to it, I have about 3,200 square feet. Just shy of 3,200 square feet finished. The houses that are being proposed are 11, 12, 1,300 square feet for the twin homes. Some of the houses to the east of this development on 15th Avenue are bigger than mine by a long way. And the proposed home values would be lower than any in the surrounding neighborhood. I just had mine for the sake of this meeting. I had mine not appraised, but given a market value by the realtor that we've used in other transactions. My home is valued right now at about $275,000. That's $100,000 more than what Mr. Goodman is talking about his homes are worth. Higher population density. There's many more people per block than the surrounding neighborhood. And we've been blessed in our neighborhood to have a relatively quiet neighborhood as far as traffic goes. There'll be much more traffic. And quite frankly, this is not a normal progression of a neighborhood in Willmar, Minnesota. Houses, single homes are built. This is a totally different housing plan and type starting in the middle of an existing block. Is it compatible in terms of what's already there? I didn't go and find the best homes. I could have taken better pictures than this. This is what's abutting. These are my neighbors. That's what's there now. That's what we can expect. You have all these floor plans, so I'll move through. So is it compatible? According to those pictures, yes. And if those pictures turn out the way that Mr. Goodman says they will, that's okay. But nobody so far has guaranteed me that. This project clearly does not conform with the characteristics of the current neighborhood. The exterior appearance and the functional plans of this project are not compatible with what's in the neighborhood. Simply from the fact that we're putting townhomes in, it's not compatible. And that the conditional use will not substantially diminish the property. $100,000 difference is not going to bring my house down. How can a project that isn't complementary and doesn't conform to characteristics of the neighborhood not bring my housing values down? Common sense tells us that it does just that. much like some of the council members, I also went to some of the developments, and I looked at them, and I was impressed with what I saw. St. Peter, Marshall in particular were the two that I spent the most time at. With some caveats. Most, if you look up, and in my presentation at the Planning Commission, I showed where most of the planned unit developments that Southwest Minnesota Housing has done are located on the edges of town, not smack dab in the middle of developments that are pre-existing. There aren't any that start in the middle of a block. So this technically is going against what Southwest Minnesota Housing does. And maybe they're trying something new, and where I'm at is, if there was a cross street there, I wouldn't have a problem. But you put something starting in the middle of a block, just because there's a property line, it doesn't make any sense. And then I want to address one other issue, and that is the one of the conditions that was placed on this project was that they have an on-site manager. I think that's great, because since 2003, we have had nothing but heartache on the empty lot that has been there. Weeds have been atrocious. We've had to call city staff numbers of times, and I believe the city has mowed and or sprayed a number of times. So I would ask that if there is a favorable vote, that you add the condition. I believe the condition that's on there says 15 years that there's an on-site caretaker. I say for the life of the lease. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. I'll entertain any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Scott. It's obvious you put a lot of time and effort into your presentation. Thank you. Council members, do you have any questions of Mr. Thaden? Ron, Councilmember Christensen?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I was pointing that way.
Who's got a question? Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Scott, thank you for your presentation. Regarding your assertion on the property values themselves, one of the things that we have to deal with as a council is that we have to deal with this question on a factual basis. So my question to you would be, do you have any facts, appraisals, anything like that, that were presented to the Planning Commission, because we can't take new testimony here as far as that type of thing. But did the Planning Commission hear anything on a factual basis regarding that question?
Yes. Mr. Goodman, one of Mr. Goodman's staff submitted a study stating that it does not affect. But I think, as Councilmember Christensen pointed out, and in my own business as an agriculture consultant, you can find a study to say just about anything you want.
Well, I guess though
I can only go, excuse me, I can only go with what has been presented here tonight, that a house next door to mine will be worth $100,000 less than mine. And common sense tells me that's going to bring mine down.
Well, let me sharpen my question just a little bit then. Did you present any evidence, factual evidence, based upon any numbers, any studies, anything like that?
No, I did not.
Thank you. Oh, and the question regarding this being on the outskirts of town. On this property, is the south property line, is the land beyond that within the city limits?
I don't know that.
I believe that that is not annexed into the into the city limits. It is.
Mr. Kerry Peterson owns that, and that's in the city limits.
I'm looking then at the mapping correctly. Thank you for that.
Any other comments from the council members? Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe some of the council members aren't aware, or maybe the audience isn't, but the criteria that Scott is referring to is the Planning Commission has a 7-point standard that has to be met when any conditional use permit is applied for within the city. And 3 of those standards Scott had referred to. This proposed project does not meet those 3. Now, it could be in the eyes of the beholder. Mr. Gardner wants facts on this. When we were at the Planning Commission, the statements that I heard from the members, and I believe even from our Community Development Director, was that I think, and this means, and this is what I feel. Those are some terms that were used, and those are not factual. I believe what he has presented, there are facts there stating that this does not conform to the current neighborhood. And because of that, the 7 criteria, each one of them have to be met. If one of them fails, they do not have to issue the conditional use permit. I know a lot of it's in the eyes of the beholder. I feel that 2 of them have not been met, and so I disagree with the Planning Commission's findings. However, again, that's subject to our discretion here. I would make a motion that we reverse the Planning Commission's findings and deny the conditional use permit for this project.
Ron, we have a motion on the table already, I believe.
I know we do, Mr. Mayor, and when that motion was made, you were looking at Mr. Gardner, and he said, if there are no further questions, I will move to file the minutes, and I had my hand out to ask a question, and somebody seconded it immediately. So the question did not come to me. I was going to pull the minutes myself. Jim was going to pull the minutes to speak to this, but since he pulled it, it's open for discussion. I did not have a chance to ask any questions prior to him making that motion.
What you can do, if you want to, is make an amendment to the motion.
Amend it as?
There's a motion on the table. If you want to amend the motion, you can.
Would my amendment be to not file the minutes?
Well,
No, that would be...
That wouldn't be
That'd
correct
out of
either.
order. Perhaps it's an amendment to delete one of the items for further discussion or something. You can't make an amendment that's a complete reversal of the motion. That's out of order. So you'd have to deal with item 4 if you want to deal with it.
What's item 4? Oh, the item we're speaking about.
That's right. Correct.
item 4 is
This is the item we're talking about.
the
Presently,
Southwest
yeah.
Housing Partnership Planned Unit Development
Yes.
Conditional Use Permit.
So because there's a motion on the floor, the only option I have is to amend it, even though I was going to ask a question before it was seconded.
I believe that's true. You could ask the city attorney to verify
Rich,
that.
are you back there?
I'm here.
Richard Ronings, our city attorney. Rich, can you help us here a little bit?
I would agree with what the city clerk has advised, that the amendment would be, for example, to delete paragraph 4 from the approval motion that's pending.
Then we would need an additional, but just by deleting it is, what does that really do? it just...
Then I believe you'd be up for any action you'd like afterwards.
Okay.
If it was a successful
I guess my amendment, or my motion, would be to amend the original motion and approve all the minutes with except item number 4 on the Planning Commission.
All right.
That's my motion, my amendment.
Second.
There's a motion, and it's been seconded to add an amendment to the original motion. The amendment then is to delete number 4 in the minutes of the Planning Commission for January 9th. Number 4 within this body of minutes is all the discussion about the conditional use permit for the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership planned development. Okay, that's the motion, and it's been seconded. Is there any comments about that from council members? Let me see if anybody else has any comments. I'll come back to you, Ron. Anybody else have any comments about that? Councilmember Gardner, and then back to Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just looking for a point of clarification. What the amendment is to simply have us disregard this item number 4 entirely.
No, it's to bring it up for discussion after we pass the rest of the minutes.
So we're simply looking to pass the rest of the minutes at this point in time. I am not entirely understanding the amendment.
Well, it seems like that. It seems like what you're saying, Ron, is you want to cut out number 4 in the minutes. There are 9 items in the minutes, and you want to cut out number 4 in the minutes.
I'll cut to the chase, okay? Make this quick and simple. I would like a vote on this by the council tonight on whether or not we should reverse the findings of the Planning Commission. I cannot do that under the current amendment. The current motion of filing the minutes. And he quick filed them, and somebody seconded them before I could ask any questions and offer anything myself, which is kind of underhanded to me. I have no choice here, according to the city attorney and Mr. Halliday. This motion will be defeated. It'll be a 4-4 tie. We will not be able to discuss item number 4. And my next comment would be, we do have, I don't know how many letters you have there before you, but somehow they need to be read into the record before any of this takes place.
All right, I'll do that, Ron.
And I would appreciate that.
Okay.
And I have one more.
What Councilmember Christensen is referring to is some letters from citizens about this issue, and I will read them in. First one is from Mr. Don Williamson. To the mayor and city council members, this letter is in reference to the action that may be taken on the Westwind's plat this evening. I'm a citizen of Willmar and a concerned landowner that will be affected by your action tonight. I was one of almost 100 concerned citizens in attendance at the Planning Commission's meeting on January 9th, 2008, concerning the Westwind's Estate 3rd Edition. When the opportunity was given for public comment, I was one of many given pertinent testimony as to the suitability of the requested use for the property in question. After almost 2 hours of question, comments, and testimony, I was taken back by the final decision of the Commission to approve the request for a conditional use permit, which passed on a split vote. While I highly respect the Commission members and the duties they perform for our community, I believe they made an emotional decision in response to the highly charged atmosphere. This is best reflected in the comments by 2 of the Commission members that they were probably doing us a favor by granting the permit. Again, I hold no ill will towards Commission members, but the majority in attendance did not want a favor, but instead land use that is orderly and fair. A formal finding of facts will prove that 4 out of the 7 required standards for conditional use permits, as found in our city's charter, were not met. Specifically, this request does not meet the following standards: that the conditional use will not substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. Secondly, that the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of other property in the neighborhood. 3, that the use conforms or is complementary to neighborhood characteristics of the district in which it is located. 4, that the exterior architectural appearance and functional plan of the proposed improvement are compatible in terms of quality and character with the existing architectural appearance and functional plans of other uses in the vicinity. The testimony and public comment given that evening was overwhelmingly against the Westwind Estates request for a conditional use permit. I'm asking the council to listen closely to its citizens, review the standards as they apply to this request, and to not approve the Westwind Estate conditional use permit request because it does not meet the standards as set forth in the city charter. Respectfully, Don Williamson. The next letter is from Darwin and Darcy Folkrud. Are they in the audience tonight? Are they here?
He couldn't be here, that's why he sent the letter.
Okay. This is to the members of the Willmar City Council. Please vote no on the proposed low-income development that could potentially take place in southwest Willmar. The land is not zoned for multifamily homes. At the Planning Commission meeting on January 9th, there were 3 people that presented information for the proposed project. All were representatives of the organization doing the project, and there were about 100 neighbors that were all concerned enough to come to the meeting, and some of them gave excellent testimony why they thought there should not be a conditional use permit granted for this project. It was evident that almost every one of the neighbors opposed the conditional use permit, although when the committee was asked if we could have a show of hands to see who was in favor or opposed to the permit, it was stated by a committee member that it would be out of order. If the neighbors came to explain why you should make an exception to the way the land was zoned to be used, I could understand why you might consider it. However, when all the taxpayers are explaining why not to make an exception, but allow the land to be developed the way it was zoned when the taxpayers purchased their homes, it seems only natural that the people that were voted into office would represent those taxpayers and vote the way the taxpayers wanted them to. The developer knew it was zoned for single-family homes when the land was purchased. His financial problem shouldn't be ours or yours. Just say no. When I left the meeting on the night of January 9th, I was amazed that the Planning Commission could listen to the testimony that was presented and vote in favor of the project. If Willmar is so desperate to access public grant money to develop low-rent housing when there are other options available, we won't be living in a star city for very long. Just for the record, since January of 1978, I have lived in the apartments behind White Drug, a trailer house that I owned in the trailer park on Highway 5, a home that we owned at 1703 Northwest, and now 17 months at 1905 Richland Avenue. We had no trouble finding housing at all levels. I believe we have a great city, and I don't believe this is a wise project. Thanks for the attention you have given this taxpayer. The next letter is from Mr. Richard Hansen. Is he here tonight? No. To Mayor Heitke and the council, according to what I understand, Section 8 housing is for low-income housing. I am concerned because we own land just to the west of the proposed Section 8 housing development. I'm also concerned because of our future plans for our property. At the Planning Committee meeting, we were shown pictures of Section 42 homes, but Southwest Housing Development people are going to construct Section 8 homes, which are a lower quality home. If this project goes through, we will not be developing our land for homes. Signed, Mr. Hansen. The next letter is from Alice and Art Johnson. Are they here? Good evening. To Mayor Heitke and the City Council members, we are the Johnsons, Art and Alice, and we live at 1912 22nd Avenue Southwest. A little over a year ago, we moved to Willmar. We checked out various other locations within the city, and after considering them all, we decided on the property at 1912 22nd Avenue Southwest because of the quiet beauty of this location. All of the homes in our area are between $2,000 and $350,000, and some even more. Most of the people in our area are retired. All of us have been careful spenders in order to afford the homes we now own. We all take pride in the care of our property. We do not see the need for or understand why the City of Willmar would want to allow an outside organization to come here and construct low-income dwellings and twin homes in our upscale neighborhood. Past history shows us these areas do not remain as an asset to a community. Our beautiful neighborhood homes will decrease in value if this project is allowed to continue. We have always thought that an elected council member for a district would be sensitive to the people of his district and their wishes. However, Our council representative, Mr. Steve Gardner, seems to ignore what we in his district want. Please do not allow Southwest Housing Development to construct Section 8 homes in our neighborhood. If the council approves this, our home will be placed on the market and we will be leaving Willmar. The next one is an email that I received from Laura Jill Nagan. Is she here tonight? Dear Mayor Heitke, my name is Laura Nagan. I live at 1801 Southwest Richland Avenue. I'm writing you about the Westwind Estates low-income housing project. I am concerned about a few things in this proposed project. Number one, high density of people in a small area. Number two, very heavy traffic with not enough streets. I ask you to vote no on this project. This next letter is from Betty Bollig. Thank you, Mayor, Council members, staff, for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Betty Bollig. I am a real estate broker and have been selling real estate for the past 27 years in Candioi County. During that time, I've seen many changes in the market. I began when interest rates were 18%, and we have seen corrections in the market off and on since then. Many people would like to say that our present real estate environment is just a correction in the market and valuations will level off. However, the present market is very different than what we have seen in the past, and I would like to address a few issues. Minnesota, and especially outstate Minnesota, have not always coincided with national trends. We typically are a few months or even a year behind. This is true in this market as well. The national housing downswing began the last 18 months. We slowed down August of last year and continue to see a downtrend. According to the Minnesota Association of Realtors, this will continue not because of a recession, but because of our aging population and the lack of young people. I understand that since the 2000 census, Willmar has indeed lost population. Willmar has indeed lost population, period. In our market, January is our lowest inventory time, and yet in Willmar we have nearly 80 homes in the lower range on the market. Last year, between August 1st and December 31st, we had 74 homes in that same price range sell. Let me say that again. Last year, between August 1st and December 31st, we had 74 homes in that same price range sell. That means we have an absorption rate on the market at the present time of over 6 months. With new elderly housing going up on the North 1st Street and some of these people putting their homes on the market, and typical new listings, it will mean even more homes on the market. But even if there are no other homes put on the market, it will take at least 6 months for the existing sellers to have their homes sell. Who owns these homes? Your constituents, whom you as our city government have pledged to protect their interests. The housing development that is designed for Southwest Willmar will directly impact our market. It will even more so depress the market in our area. It is a known fact that when lower-end homes sell, those owners can move upward in the housing market, and so it goes. Now is not a good time for this development to go forward. How can these existing homeowners compete with subsidized housing? How will you explain your vote to subsidize housing when in some cases the only nest egg that some of these people have is the equity in their homes, and now you have taken that from them? As a broker, I see this land that you are discussing as being prime residential land that would and should go to the highest and best use, homes that are similar to the area. That will help provide a better tax base for infrastructure in Willmar. I'm asking you to please put a moratorium of 1 to 2 years on this project until the housing market shows greater strength and lower income people, many who are elderly, do not have their equity put in jeopardy. I believe you, the Willmar City Council, are charged to make the best decisions to determine and achieve our citizens' desire for the community's future. Willmar is at a crossroads. Are we going to grow and be a good place to live, work, and play, or will we deteriorate? This determination of the city's future will be based on your decisions as our city council. I have a letter here from Mr. Todd Prafke. He's the city administrator of St. Peter. It's addressed to the mayor and the members of the council. I have been asked by the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership to write you and let you know of some of our experiences with their projects. We've had a 10-year relationship with Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership and a number of different housing projects, including single-family, multifamily, and new subdivision development. We have found their staff to be excellent, and the outcome of project is as promised or better. The properties they have developed and owned have been of high quality and are well maintained. They provide us cooperative information and have worked diligently to correct any concerns that we have had. As an owner, they participate in our community and have worked well with my staff and the City Council. In fact, one of the single-family developments we cooperatively built has won awards for design. All of the projects have performed better than anticipated from a financial standpoint. We are regularly asked to give tours to other communities looking at subdivisions designed for working families. Our experience has been very good, and the work that has been done has made a positive impact on our community. We would have no hesitation in working with the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership in the future and are currently reviewing additional opportunities to work with them again. I received a letter here from Mr. Charles Miller. Is he in the audience? Charles Miller, sent to the mayor and members of the council. I encourage you to enable low-income housing to be built in Willmar, and if the legal requirements are met, I recommend that you approve Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership's application for a development in the Westwind estates. Living in the vicinity of the area in question, I do not anticipate property values diminishing because of the proposed low-income housing. The affluent will be able to retain their wealth, and the poor will have a bit of an opportunity to obtain some affluence. With my aging wife being physically handicapped, she welcomes the possibility of obtaining help nearby. Therefore, we see that low-income housing can provide a bright spot, not a blight spot, for several of us in Willmar. Those are the letters that I have received.
I forgot.
This letter is from Mr. Joe Ridler. Dear Council, Southwest Housing Partnership purchased the land they are developing in 2004. When they explained their proposal to the city, it was for single-family dwellings using a Section 42 program. When they came to the city to develop the balance of their plat, they proposed a Section 42 program with a Section 8 added with a lease land trust program on it that the city would be part of. The city said no at that time because they did not follow protocol and the city was not comfortable with the program. Now Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership comes back with a different program. The program is a Section 42 with a Section 8 with a lease land trust program with twin homes. All of their developments they have going on and have done are Section 42 programs with single home dwellings. Why the change? Studies that have been done on Section 8 housing do show that there is an adverse negative impact on adjacent or neighboring property, while Section 42 developments with the single-family dwellings do well. No Section 8, no land trusts or twin homes, only single-family homes. The study was done by the University of Wisconsin from 1991 to 2000. 3,193 homes sold in this period. Put the deal back to what they started with a Section 42 development with single-family units. No Section 8, no land trusts, and no twin homes. Please do the right thing and put single-family dwellings in with a straight Section 42 program like you started with and have done in the rest of your territory projects. Do the right thing. Now I think I've completed all the letters. Councilmember Reese.
I guess that, but first of all, I'm going to ask, Ron's, Councilmember Christensen's motion has the intent of us voting later on to overturn the Planning Commission's decision. Do we even have that ability to overturn their decision?
Yes, sir, you do by charter, 5 affirmative votes of the council without the mayor contributing a vote.
Okay. And I, in listening to some of the letters and some of the comments, all of us sitting here as city council people, we of course have been elected by the citizens of Willmar, but when there's an issue that such as what we're facing here tonight, it's our responsibility as a council person to face that issue, but do we take a vote of our constituents? Do we count hands and then set policy by going by the wishes of the majority? I don't believe that we can truly operate in that manner, with full respect to our taxpaying citizens that are sitting here tonight, but especially when we have an issue such as this and where it involves conscience. I'm quite certain that the majority of our citizens expect us as council people to exercise much broader discretion than that. And each one of us have been elected with the citizenry expecting that we exercise that discretion and apply judgment in deciding how do we vote on issues. And of course, by doing so, we open ourselves to criticism. And that simply comes with our job. As City Council, we have to make decisions based on what's necessary, what is required by law, and by our own city ordinances that we set, rather than what's popular. Making a decision or casting a vote that's contrary to our constituents' desires means that there will be constituents that are unhappy with our vote and also unhappy with the City Council. And I think that all of us sitting at this table right now have been here long enough that we've learned the hard way that decisions that involve weighing the public good or betterment of the community with the interest and desires of a group of our constituents is very difficult. So this is not an easy task for us sitting up here. I look at this project, and it's for people that are in need within our community. And this morning I picked up the newspaper and I read an article. It says, Candido County Crisis Fund gets financial boost of nearly $21,000 from Willmar Church. And I just picked out two parts of that article. Pastor Kierstetter said, it doesn't matter if help comes from the government or a church as long as the shared mission of helping our neighbors is met. And then Mr. Keefe from the county said that when different entities like faith communities and government can recognize common needs and work together, good things get accomplished. Not long ago, we had to make another difficult decision. We had a full room on the siting of our new mental health hospital. And before making that decision, we were faced with public opposition, and very similar to what we're facing here tonight. And you know, not all of these units are rentals. Some of them are rentals, but most of them are ownership. And I think that in that case, we can reasonably expect that the upkeep of those homes is going to be much better than it would be if it was purely rental. And we have looked at the designs. We've all reviewed it. Planning Commission has reviewed it. We've seen pictures of similar projects, heard testimonials. And from what I see and what testimonials have been given, I think these are nice-looking homes. I've received a lot of emails, and I've received the same letters that you read and other letters. I've received comments on the street from citizens in regards to this project. I've received comments that say they want me to move ahead with the project. I also had received comments that say, no, you shouldn't move ahead. You know, I talked about need before, and there's people in our community that need some help, and if we can help them, if the Southwest Minnesota Housing Initiative can help out and help them to have a home. You know, I heard the shelter house mentioned, and if there's people in need, we should be trying to help them out in whatever way we can. And I looked at, I really debated whether I say this or not, but I think I will. I looked at the internet only because I became curious. Maybe this will add a little levity to the thing, I don't know. But every time we're faced with these things, whether it's the state hospital or it's this project, everybody, not everybody, I get comments, you know, it's NIMBY, NIMBY. Now, for those of you that don't know what NIMBY is, it's not in my backyard. So I looked it up. I became curious, and I looked up NIMBY on wordspy.com, and they described NIMBY as a person who hopes or seeks to keep some dangerous or unpleasant feature out of their neighborhood. But then they went on to list some related words or acronyms. The other one was NOTE. Not over there either. And then they had banana. Build absolutely nothing anywhere near anything. And then NOPE, which is N-O-P-E, not on planet Earth. And I know what some of you might be thinking, well, would Councilmember Reese want this project in his backyard? And I live right next to the big open field, the Gesh open field. So there is room. It could be put over there. And I guess I answer that with another acronym, NAP, N-A-P, not a problem. At the Planning Commission meeting, Commission member Mike Morris told the audience that the proposed project puts the Commission in a difficult position of either approving a permit for a project that neighbors don't like or denying it and allowing the partnership to develop a rental property. And that doesn't require Commission action. Now it sits in front of us in that same difficult position. What action is right, lawful, or correct? And I don't believe we can base our decisions on emotions. The Southwest Minnesota Partnership, they've met all of the conditions that we have set as a city in order to construct a project within our city, and they own the property. How can we possibly deny the right to build that project when they're living by all the rules set by this council?
Councilmember Anderson.
Wow. I'm not quite sure if I can follow. That was a good discussion, and thank you for that. I want to speak to the quality of the homes. Saturday, I took a trip down to St. Peter and wanted to see for myself. What are we talking about? What do these things really look like? And the first one I went to was called Nicollet Meadows Edition. It was fairly near the St. Peter Hospital. And as I drove in there, my first thought was, wow, I don't think I'm in quite the right place. Let me tell you, those homes are very, very nice. Now, they're close together. I mean, you have to accept that these are smaller lots. The homes, they all were a little bit different. They all had little things that made them somewhat unique. And they had a unique trait there. That was the one, I believe, that had alleys that ran behind them. Very, very nice. So then I went to the north side of town to one that's called Washington Terrace. And I think, I don't know the price range, but I would say that this one was somewhat less. But again, very, very nice. These aren't homes that are stamped out and they all look the same. There were very few of them that looked the same. They were very nice looking. If there's a criticism to be had, and it's through no fault of theirs, but there weren't a lot of trees. And the shrubbery hadn't had a chance to grow up around the homes to kind of give it a little bit of a planted look and make the homes look like they fit in. There were no twin homes, so I did not see any. If there were any, I didn't see any there. There were some townhomes that, again, looked very nice. So I have no hesitation that if Southwest Minnesota says this is what they're going to build, if it's comparable to what they have done in St. Peter, these are going to be an asset.
Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As one might imagine, being a council member from the ward that is affected by this development, well, it's been an interesting last couple of weeks. I have heard from a lot of people, both pro and con, on this. And it comes down to, I believe, several criteria. One is that there be, and you've heard it said here before, reasons why you need to vote for or against something. And they have to be based on fact. Now, I resent a little bit the indication that was made earlier that the Planning Commission did not vote on the facts reviewed, but that they rather voted on the opinion of the Planning Development Director, and that he was telling them to vote based on his statements prefaced by, I don't think that, and my opinion is. Now, I think Mr. Peterson has a background of, I believe, probably well over 30 years of experience. And it is his job as a city official to help apply the law. I don't think that he's making anything up here. And the reason I say that is that, and this is one of the great benefits of our membership in the League of Minnesota Cities, because we can go online as council members and we can print out just about anything that is in the handbook for Minnesota cities. So there's an entire chapter on regulatory and development functions of cities. This is all about land use. Now, it's kind of a Cliff Notes version, but even at that, it's over 45 pages of information. And when we get to the part about conditional uses, and by the way, it's really neat how they lay this out, because you have what
Steve, get to the point.
Sure. You have case law being cited to back all this up. And so there's case law that says that the city must grant the conditional use permit if the applicant satisfies all the conditions. Neighborhood opposition alone does not authorize the rejection of an application for a conditional use permit, and that when a local government denies a landowner a conditional use permit without sufficient evidence to support its decision, a court can order the issuance of a permit subject to reasonable conditions. And that's supported by established case law. We need to follow our own ordinances. We need to follow state statute. We need to follow the federal and state fair housing acts. And this is not anything that is subject to an interpretation. This is the law. And we have to follow the law, or we have to be ready to face litigation on the state and federal level. I have no doubt of this. Finally, I do want to say one last thing, and I don't want to belabor the point. Many of you know that I support this also as a matter of my faith. And I don't mean to support this to upset everybody. I don't mean to support this because I'm somehow dissing the neighborhood. I have tried my best to make the most ethical decision that I can in this regard. And I've applied a series of tests to that, and I have tried to put myself in everyone's shoes. And at the end of the day, I have to come down to the scripture in Proverbs 22:2, where it says that the rich and the poor have this in common, the Lord made them both. It's that simple. There's no reason that the two neighborhoods can't coexist. And if the folks that are there now are so truly concerned about what might be in there, I invite you to come alongside the people who are going to be moving into this development and partner with them to make it a better neighborhood instead of ostracizing them.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't know Mr. Gardner was an attorney, but I can tell you, you're only as good as the attorney you hire. So you might have information there that says one thing, but if your attorney is good, they can find a way to break it. And a comment to Mr. Reese, no matter how much you do, there's always going to be need. There's always going to be people that need help. So, but the thing I find amazing is the property, the people aren't going to own the land. It's going to be a leasehold. Now, this is Willmar, Minnesota, where land values are still pretty reasonable. You know, $25,000, $45,000 for a lot. We're not in Chicago or New York. The wonders of home ownership is that you have all of the bundle of rights. You own a property fee simple. This property will not do that. And looking at Mr. Gudeman's analysis here, there's a lot of assumption that home purchase price $75,000, initial appraised value $175,000. As an appraiser, I'm just wondering, do you have an appraiser in your back pocket that's going to come up with this kind of value? The only property I know that's fee simple or leasehold is railroad property. Had it for many years. They leased out to commercial properties, but they're getting away from that and they're selling it. Federal government had the parks for seasonal free use. They aren't doing that anymore. The only two places I've done appraisals for leasehold ownership is on the reservation in Morton and Granite Falls, and they're a pain in the butt. And the only place I know you can get a loan is Freddie Mac, and there's a lot of paperwork. So that might be fine that Bremer, and I know Wells Fargo has done some, but this isn't the right way to go for Willmar. St. Peter and Marshall, they're totally different markets and communities compared to Willmar. I go over to Montevideo and I've seen those properties over there, and they are okay, but they wouldn't look nice adjacent to these $300,000 homes that are existing there in Willmar now. So it's, I'm sorry to say, it's not compatible. So thank you.
I'm going to try and wrap this down here to get to a vote. So, Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep this quick. I do have to answer to Councilman Reese's. The need is there. We have 77 homes in Willmar presently for sale under $140,000. They need buyers. You're going to take 38 buyers off of that market from buying those homes. Those people who want to sell and move up to the next one, those move-up ones won't be able to sell. Betty Bolig explained it very clearly in her letter. This will affect the real estate market in Willmar for the next 5 years. 5 years. The need is not there. Now, we were told at the Planning Commission we can't discuss need. Can't discuss need, can't discuss people. It's 7 criteria. That's what we have to look at. Everybody's asking, where are the facts? I'll tell you the facts. Number 3 of the criteria states, the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of other people or other property, in this neighborhood. We've had 2 property owners here tonight with letters to the mayor. One of them owns, 100 acres, kitty corner, right next to this, adjacent to this property. He got the letter from the city saying, you're within 300 feet, you need to be concerned about this. He said tonight in his letter, I will not develop that property with homes if this project goes forward. If that ain't a fact, I don't know what is. We have another one right in front of us who just purchased a large section at 12, 14, how many acres, Don? 12 acres to build very upscale homes. 6 lots and 12 acres within 300 feet of this. He said, yes, it will affect my decision to develop my property. Who doesn't understand that as fact? Is that not fact? Are they lying to us? If that isn't a fact, and the Planning Commission didn't see it, hopefully we can see it. That is a fact, folks. Mr. Goodman knows it. He knows these criteria. Somebody tell me what isn't fact about that. It does not meet the smell test for number 3. If it doesn't meet one of these, they're not supposed to issue a conditional use permit. Now, I have a request. I think we all know where this is going. I don't believe it's going to pass the council tonight, but I would request the council go along with my amendment so we can have an up and down vote on this and get this over with.
All right. Thank you, Ron.
Please.
I have a question either from our city administrator or for Bruce Peterson. This concept of a normal progression of neighborhoods. What constitutes a normal progression of neighborhoods?
I think it varies by community. Currently, the trend in development is mixed use, mixed densities, and you're seeing that all across the country where you've got within a very tight neighborhood anything from single-family homes to multi-unit apartment structures. So for a normal progression, in this particular case, I'm not even sure that concept really applies because you're talking about R1 zones or R2 zones. The R1 zones are strictly single-family, and the R2 zones are single-family or twin home development or duplex development if they're rentals. To me, that does not constitute a deviation in density. You're still looking at very low density. It's not considered multiple family densities, and it certainly wouldn't be considered high density.
Thank you, Bruce. All right, we have...
Mr. Mayor, just one comment.
Very brief.
It has to do with your last question, the normal progression of a neighborhood. And I forgot where I read this, but it was another city's website. Somebody stated, when moving to that city, or let's say Willmar, when moving to Willmar, Minnesota, and purchasing a home next to a vacant lot or a vacant field, one should reasonably expect that what's going to go there will be comparable to what you're moving into. That would be normal progression.
All right. We have a motion on the table to file the minutes. The motion has also been amended to delete number 4 in this body of minutes. So we're going to vote on the amendment first. Are you ready to vote now, council? You ready to vote? Okay. Kevin, read the motion so it's clear to everybody, the amendment to the motion.
The amendment is very clear that Councilmember Christian moved to accept item number 4 from the minutes.
So if you vote yes, what are you saying? If a council member votes yes.
Then the original motion will be to vote for the minutes without item 4 in it at all. And then item 4 is back on the table to address.
Okay, in the amendment, if a council member votes yes, what does that mean?
Item number 4 will not be part of the approving minute package.
And if they vote no, it will be part of the minutes.
Correct.
Okay, everybody understand? All right, this is a motion.
Simple motion.
Those in favor of the amendment to the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
No.
Roll call.
Councilmember Reese.
No.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
No.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
No.
5 ayes, 3 nays. The amendment passes.
All right, so number 4 is cut out of the minutes.
Correct.
Now we're back to the original.
No. Oh, yeah, we are, that's right.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so the original motion then is to pass the minutes of the Planning Commission of January 9th minus number 4. Is that
Correct.
right, Kevin?
Correct.
Okay, are you ready to vote on that?
Sure.
That's another simple motion.
Correct.
Those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries. So we have now approved the minutes of the Planning Commission of January 9th minus number 4, which is the entire Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. Council, what do you wish to do? Councilmember Christensen.
I believe it's still on the table, Mr. Mayor, if that's the case. And I thank you for excluding it, those of you that voted for it. I would now make my motion to override the Planning Commission's decision on item number 4. In other words, deny the conditional use permit. That is my motion.
Second.
There's a motion, and it's been seconded to deny help me here, to deny the conditional use permit that the City Planning Commission voted on.
Yep.
Is that your motion? All right. Any comments from council members? I have a question. How was this, Mr. Goodman, how was this project going to be funded? And how much is involved here? Back to the microphone, please.
Let's just vote.
Rick Goodyman, Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. The project involves a mortgage through Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. It involves low-income housing tax credits. It involves funds from the Greater Minnesota Housing Fund. It also involves funds through NeighborWorks America, and those are all 0% deferred loans. The low-income housing tax credits are equity, and we're talking approximately $6.6 million for the lease-to-own and the rental. And the single-family homes would involve roughly another $170,000 each, which, do the math,
Close to $6.8 million.
close to $7 million, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to point that out because this is all money that would be coming into the city from outside resources, $6.8 million.
That's correct.
That's what you're voting on. All right, any other comments about the motion? All right, Kevin, the motion again?
To override the Planning Commission approval of the conditional use permit and deny the permit.
All right. If you vote yes, you vote to override. If you vote no, what does the no mean?
To go along with the Planning Commission.
Go along with the Planning Commission. Yes means override, no means go along with the Planning Commission. Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Yes.
Anderson.
No.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
No.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
No.
Reese.
No.
4 ayes, 4 nays. The override fails.
The override of the Planning Commission fails. Therefore, the the decision by the Planning Commission stands.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is
Is
correct.
that the understanding? All right. The council has voted. The decision of the Planning Commission stands. The project will go forward. At this time, I want to thank everybody who is here tonight for coming, for sitting through nearly 2 hours of testimony and comments. We are going to take a recess. I'd like to point out that we will have the rest of the agenda in about 5 minutes, and that includes the State of the City address. Thank you. I'm going to reconvene the City Council meeting at this time.
Thank you.
And ask the members of the City Council to finish some of the items here. On the Planning Commission minutes, we need a motion to file number 4 of the Planning Commission minutes.
Make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file paragraph or item number 4 of the Planning Commission minutes of January 9th. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. I was informed that the council also needs to take a couple of actions here. One is to approve a cooperative agreement, and the other is to pass a resolution for the City of Willmar to be the recipient of the monies. Rick, would you explain this further?
Could I have Lisa Unken?
Sure, sure.
I don't have a copy with me at this time.
You want this?
Yeah, I just need to have it back.
Would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Lisa Unken, Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. The cooperative agreement is a document used in conjunction with the Small Cities Development Program, which are funds that have been awarded to the City of Willmar in support of this project. I'm not sure how familiar the council is with this funding award. Would you like me to go into more detail about that?
A little bit more, please.
Okay. The funding award was made in application by the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership and I believe, Rick, in conjunction with the HRA. You want to correct me if I'm wrong there? Okay. And in support of this project and is part of the funding that is being used in the construction of the 28-unit portion of this project. And the funding will be awarded from the Department of Employment and Economic Development, who is essentially the participating jurisdiction for community development block grant funds that come from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So essentially, it's a federal source of funding that comes from HUD through the state of Minnesota to individual cities, of which you've already been awarded $350,000. You need to accept the funding, if you should do that, and sign the cooperative agreement, which is done here in this document that's in front of you. And basically what it is it's an agreement between the City of Willmar and the department that's being presented to the deed, the Department of Employment and Economic Development, and between the City of Willmar and the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. And it explains that the City of Willmar will act as the applicant because the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership is not allowed to be an applicant in this case. The funds can only be applied for by a municipality, so that would be a county or city, not a nonprofit. And again, you have already been awarded funding. We've already confirmed this for this project. And the loan funds will be lent by the City of Willmar to the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership, or actually the limited partnership that works on the development of the project. So in essence, you'll be making a loan to the project. You will be receiving these loan funds back as program income, which you're familiar with because the city has received these funds previously. And so it would be at a loan rate of 0.25% for 30 years. So there will be a note on our project of what you'll be receiving funds back. The costs incurred for any publications that we are required to do for this project will be bared by the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. And we the City of Willmar agrees to enter into a contract with the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership for the general administration of the funds, which naturally makes sense because we're the developer of the project. We're the ones familiar with the administration of the project. And then the number 5 refers to upon the award of the deed funds, the small cities funds from deed. The City of Willmar agrees to comply with all the laws and regulations that come with these federal funds. And then as your general administrator, we ensure that under contract that you do also abide by these regulations. And the City of Willmar also agrees to track and report to deed after the compliance period, after the contract of the 2-year contract for these funds closes. There'll be a reporting period for a very simple program income report that needs to be completed.
All right. So the council needs to offer a resolution to accept that agreement. Is that the idea?
Correct.
Council members? Is there a motion? Or Councilmember Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll wait for a motion if you want me to comment now or what. I mean, I want to make sure that the entire council understands what's going on here. That we will be borrowing money to this project. Everybody understand that?
All right, Councilmember.
We've already been awarded a grant, but we have to sign paperwork borrowing it back to them. That's what I heard.
The city's not borrowing the money, the city's loaning the money to the project.
Borrow, loan.
Yeah.
Pretty much same thing, definition. Now, how many votes does it take to defeat this? The motion is made to accept it.
This is a standard resolution.
Simple majority.
With the mayor voting.
Correct. I understand that.
Okay.
Does any council member want to make a motion?
Is that a motion or a resolution?
A resolution.
Introducing the resolution.
I'll introduce the resolution. We accept the, the grant funds?
Well, the cooperative agreement.
And then assign the cooperative agreement.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion, and it's been seconded for a resolution to sign a cooperative agreement for the money to be received by the city from the federal government. We'll get to the second one secondly. You're going to explain the second one, too. Any comments on that resolution motion? Councilmember Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So she'll explain the next resolution.
Yes.
Correct. The first one is strictly for us to enter into an agreement with them to accept the grant money and then borrow it to the project.
Pass it through. Yeah, we have to be the fiscal agent.
Correct. Okay.
Any other comments? Councilmember Dockin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How much is the money we're talking about, and which fund is it coming from?
It's a $350,000 grant from the Department of DEED, Employment and Economic Development, to the City of Willmar.
And where is it coming from?
The state of Minnesota.
Okay.
Anyone else? This is a resolution. Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
No.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
No.
Fagerly.
No.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
No.
4-4.
Mayor votes in favor.
5-4.
Now, would you explain the second issue here?
Okay, Lisa Unkin again, Southwest Housing Partnership. Okay, regarding the cooperative agreement, then the second document is the local government resolution. And that because these are federal funds going to the state of Minnesota and then as a grant to the city, this is required that the city sign a resolution basically authorizing to be a participant in this grant. This is a requirement by the Department of Employment and Economic Development. So you are essentially saying that you're resolving to act as a legal sponsor of the project, that the City of Willmar and the Housing Partnership have entered into a cooperative agreement, which we just discussed, that you're resolving that you have the legal authority to apply for these financial assistance, and that the City of Willmar is not violated any federal, or state, or local laws. That upon the approval of this application, that the City of Willmar may enter into an agreement with the State of Minnesota, basically the contract for the grant agreement, and then also that the mayor and the city administrator are, or their successors are authorized to execute the documents.
Thank you. Council?
Is that a resolution also?
Yes, it is.
I'd introduce the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution authorizing our local government to enter into this agreement. Further comment about that? Roll call.
Councilmember Swenson.
No.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
No.
Fagerly.
No.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
No.
Anderson.
Aye.
4 ayes, 4 nays.
I vote in favor of this resolution.
5 ayes, 4 nays.
All right. I think we are done with that matter at this point, Mick. I will now go back to Councilmember DeBleek, who had pulled the minutes of the Municipal Utilities Commission of January 14th. Bruce?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The item I wanted to point out on the Municipal Utilities Commission meeting, resolution number 2 had passed a service territory agreement and an annexation model, which is an agreement between the City of Willmar and the Willmar Municipal Utilities, the Candioi County Co-op. They had passed that subject to final additions to the city attorney. Just want to make you aware that that item will be dealt with under community development minutes, and would be a separate approval required by the City of Willmar for that documents to become enacted. So with that, Mr. Mayor, just if there are no questions, a motion to file the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file the minutes of the Municipal Utilities Commission for January 14th. Comment? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next is the annual State of the City address that the mayor prepares and presents to the public. And it's my pleasure again to do this because it gives me a chance to gather information about the city, listen and talk to a number of staff people, and put together what I think is a summary of the state of the city at this time. It's dated today's date, January 22nd, 2008. To the citizens of Willmar, members of the City Council, city staff, and media representatives, good evening. In 2008, we now begin our 138th year as an organized city governed by our own city charter. Tonight, as I speak to the citizens of Willmar, I will say that our city is healthy, financially strong, continuing to grow with positive economic development, and growing as an inclusive community with vibrant multicultural activities. Tonight, I'd like to begin this report by speaking about our city-owned Rice Memorial Hospital and city-owned Willmar Municipal Utilities operations. Rice Memorial Hospital employs over 900 persons in a variety of inpatient services, outpatient services, Rice Care Center services, mobile units, foundation services, and shared management services with other hospitals in west central Minnesota. Rice staff and administration have worked hard to develop and sustain shared medical services with our 2 major medical clinics in Willmar, affiliated community medical centers, and Lakeland Family Practice Clinic. With changing reimbursement schedules, 2007 was a difficult year for Rice Memorial Hospital, despite a long list of positive developments that should position the hospital for future success. In 2007, significant spending reductions, including employee layoffs, were required early in the year to adjust for declines in patient volumes. On the positive side, this difficult action has resulted in a return to positive financial performance for the year. The death of an employee due to a work-related accident shocked and saddened everyone in the Rice Memorial Hospital family. Our thoughts and prayers continue to go out to the Sue Leakum family, her friends, and her co-workers at Rice. Positive developments which position the hospital well for future success include a strengthened collaborative relationship with affiliated community medical centers, which included the development of a hospitalist program at Rice, a new partnership with ACMC, Rice Hospital, and Alexandria Orthopedics that should result in improved access orthopedic care in our community. A major joint venture in the area of cancer care and medical imaging, which should result in more efficient and effective services in the future. Success in recruiting 5 new physicians to the community in 2007, and more success in this area is anticipated in 2008, with 2 new physicians already committed to joining ACMC and Family Practice Medical Center later this year. The completion of the Rice Regional Dental Clinic in collaboration with the University of Minnesota School of Dentistry, which will provide access to thousands of undeserved residents in Willmar and the surrounding West Central area, while increasing the opportunity for recruiting new dentists to the region, and the expansion of mental health services with the addition of two new psychiatrists at Rice. 2008 looks bright with further collaboration between Rice, ACMC, and Family Practice Medical Center on the horizon. A major senior care initiative, which includes the replacement of the Rice Care Center nursing home facility, is also in the planning and siting stages. Our qualified and professional staff and administration at Rice Memorial Hospital certainly need to be commended for their direct services to all citizens and also for their planning and visioning for the future. Our city-owned Willmar Municipal Utilities also had a significant year of change, growth, and development. Our former general manager, Mike Nichols, retired from the Willmar Municipal Utilities after 29 years of service. His dedication and steady hand on finances, visioning, and development for our utilities certainly has been commendable, and we thank him for his service. Following a nationwide search, Bruce Gaum from Wisconsin was hired as a new general manager for the Willmar Municipal Utilities. Bruce brings with him both a private sector and a public sector background in utility work. Highlights at the utilities from 2007 include the Willmar Municipal Utilities increased its ownership stake in the proposed Big Stone 2 generating station project from 9 megawatts to 30 megawatts. Considerable work was put into a negotiated new service territory agreement with Candiota Power Cooperative to replace the existing agreement that expires in 2010. This discussion has led to the creation of an annexation agreement, which addresses the process involved when Willmar annexes land into the Candiota County Power Cooperative service territory. The agreement allows the Candiota Power Cooperative to continue to serve the area for a period of 10 years as compensation for the loss of the territory. The City Council members will consider further discussion on this agreement later in tonight's meeting. The Willmar Municipal Utilities performed a detailed study on the power plant to assist in determining the most economical methods to upgrade the power plant in order to achieve both current and future environmental requirements while extending the actual life of the power plant. They continue to make progress toward the installation of 2.5 megawatt wind turbines. They installed new electric service to the new Super Walmart and surrounding Waterview Business Park area, and the Water Development Department set a new record for peak water demand in the amount of 7.7 million gallons a day. Plans for 2008 for the utilities include implementing improvements to the power plant as identified in the study conducted in 2007, conducting a study to assess the space needs and improvements necessary for the utility facilities, constructing a new substation for the new wastewater treatment plant, installing 2 new wind turbines on a site located north of the Willmar Senior High School, constructing a new pumping station on the west side of Willmar to support developments on the north side of the city and the expanding industrial areas. Continue lobbying efforts at both the state and federal level to obtain funding for these necessary projects. In 2007, Willmar had approximately $34 million in total new construction. This included over $26 million in commercial, industrial, and institutional construction, and over $7 million in residential construction. The residential construction included 23 single-family homes, and in 2007, some of the recent building and development of properties included the following: Waterview Business Park completed with the Super Walmart as its first tenant, in addition to the Community Christian School for high school classrooms in the amount of about $1 million, siting and beginning phases of construction for the new 16-bed behavioral hospital in the amount of about $2.9 million, the 76-unit Welcome to Our Home assisted living and memory loss facility in the amount of $8.35 million, the Passion Properties Assisted Living Facility, I love that name, Passion Properties for senior citizens, conversion of the Barnes Photography Building into a 30-unit extended stay hotel in the amount of $800,000, continued conversion of the old Lakeland Hotel by Van Hevelen Properties in downtown Willmar into newer single-room hotel living spaces, continued expansion and development at the Midwest Technology Campus, with 9 businesses now sited on this campus. The Minnesota Truck and Trailer Sales and Service business, in addition to the Vinci Lutheran Church remodeling program in the amount of a little over $1 million, the new T-hanger out at the airport in the amount of about $600,000, a new county salt storage shed in the amount of $350,000, 2 additions to Ridgewater Community College, the first one in the amount of $590,000 and the second one in the amount of $342,000. The new Heartland Community Action Agency, which took over Thompson Clothing Store in downtown Willmar. They're investing about $165,000. There was an expansion at the Willmar Poultry Company in the amount of $1.66 million. A new Pizza Ranch restaurant on Lakeland Avenue in the amount of $625,000. The building connection between the Civic Center Arena and the Blue Line Center with improved locker rooms, meeting rooms, concession area, and a brand new entrance area in the amount of about $1 million. In addition to the Relco Unisystems business for $150,000, the new family video and strip commercial building on First Street in the amount of $460,000. The new University of Minnesota Dental Clinic at Rice Memorial Hospital in the amount of $430,000. The new Krupa Laundromat, Myron Krupa's Laundromat on the east side of Willmar in the amount of $276,000. And the extension of County Road 47 across the former airport. This creates the connection of Willmar Avenue and County Road 47 and Highway 40. This is the first expansion of the industrial park at the old airport property. In terms of recreational services, Willmar welcomed the opening of the new disc golf course at Robbins Island and continued expansion of the curling program and Bonspiel tournaments at our ice arenas. In 2008, Willmar can look forward to these developments: a new Slumberland store, a new Walgreens drugstore on the current Slumberland property, continued development and building of the new wastewater treatment center, continued discussion and planning about the possibility of a new Rice Care Center, continued development of the industrial park infrastructure with street, curb and gutter, to begin the sales and development of the industrial park lots at the old airport property, continued business development on the Midwest campus, continued business development of the Waterview Business Park in southeast Willmar, continued business development along East Highway 12, and the completion of Willmar's comprehensive land use plan. In 2007, the Mayor's Housing Task Force completed its work on reviewing all housing regulations, ordinances, and aesthetic issues related to visual appearance of properties and storage concerns on properties, and made their recommendations to the City Council for further discussion. In 2008, the City Council will act on adjusting any of the regulations and ordinance revisions as recommended by this Housing Task Force of local citizens. Such considerations include levels of allowable deterioration for exterior maintenance, conditions of doors and windows, exterior storage, such as numbers of vehicles on property, off-street parking, animals, noise, and a personal property campaign for maintenance of property. Willmar's local option sales tax began in 2006 and generates approximately $1.5 million each year. This will continue until $8 million is collected, and then this local option sales tax will sunset. The money is being used to complete the connection of our 2 arenas, which has now been completed, acquisition of green property on the north side of Willmar, expansion of our walking and biking trail system, and the redevelopment and expansion of our industrial park on the old airport property. Our citizens should know that the city has been in discussion and made proposals to our local railroad management and railroad companies to help address the railroad noise problems in our community. The city is still waiting for responses to these discussions. Willmar is also working with our federal lobbyist to help secure funding for such railroad noise abatement efforts. Flooding problems after severe rainstorms continues to be a high item of discussion for our City Council members. Further discussion, planning efforts, and funding for such services needs to continue. Willmar's award as an All-America City continues to be recognized on a state and national level, especially in our efforts to build an inclusive community for the people of diversity who have come into this community. Tom Gillespie, the state demographer for the state of Minnesota, has spoken out publicly in state meetings, stating that if people want to know what Minnesota will look like in the year 2020, they should go and visit Willmar, as a city that is working hard to build a strong and inclusive community. Our efforts in building inclusiveness in our city have been recognized by the National League of Cities in Washington, D.C. When NBC Nightly News aired its video report on December 20th, 2006, about Willmar adjusting and welcoming people of all cultures into our community, this broadcast was seen by over 40 million people across the United States of America. Our cultural diversity staff from Willmar are being asked on a regular basis to speak to and help other cities in Minnesota understand how to work successfully in creating integration and inclusiveness in their own communities. This week our staff will be in Lester Prairie, Minnesota for a 3-hour presentation and questions. As your mayor, I was invited to San Antonio, Texas this past September to speak to a group of 440 mayors and elected officials to explain and discuss how our rural community of Willmar, Minnesota works with diversity and minority populations. Our own Willmar School District is filled with over 30% of our students who are children of diversity. Our local Willmar Area Lakes Chamber of Commerce, which monitors business growth and development, informs us that Willmar has 37 minority-owned businesses. 7 of these small businesses are Somali-owned businesses. Dr. Bruce Corey from Concordia College, who is an economist and studies economic development for people of diversity, has used his economic formulas to determine that nearly $80 million in revenue is recirculated by minority employees in our local economy out of the more than $550 million economic activity here in Willmar. Willmar needs to continue these efforts in support of integration. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stated, as immigrant people and people of lower economic status do better, we all do better. Our Willmar citizens can be proud of the beauty of our community, its growing tax base, our efforts in working with cultural diversity, and maintaining a sound fiscal foundation for services and programs throughout the city. Willmar will continue to work in partnership with Candioi County and the Willmar School District to coordinate services and make the best use of our tax dollars. It is my pleasure to serve as your mayor of this all-America city. I thank all of our citizens of Willmar for your support. I will continue to strive to represent you and our city in a professional, positive, and a productive manner. Thank you very much. Thank you. It really is a pleasure to put that information together and review how the city is doing. Let's move on. Now we have number 8 on the agenda, which is the Willmar City Council Open Forum. This is the portion of the agenda in which citizens can speak to the council if they wish to. Is there anybody here tonight that wishes to address the council? Welcome, Joe.
Hello, how you doing? Joe Riddler, 1912 20th Avenue in the southwest of Willmar. Through tonight here, seen a lot of anxiety and a lot of different thoughts and theories. A few of the questions that came up to me as I studied this whole development is that there is lack of communication, I feel, with knowledge of the programs. A Section 42 program is a good program. And as you read my letter, I backed it up with strong text. It's actually right below their website. And where I'm going with this is they talk strong of a Section 42, but in their literature, the University of Wisconsin, they did not talk highly of Section 8 voucher in the program, but the 42 straight single-family development is a strong program. They did not talk highly of units that were attached. They like, in the 42, they like to have neighborhoods of single dwelling. Nobody studied that. Y'all are here of talking of this and that. You didn't study the program. And to be real honest with you, I'm surprised that when they started with the 42, they came in and then they started throwing the different angles. And the different angles, this guy is almost like Corleone. He governs, his program governs all of your HUD program. I don't mean to be rude. This guy's got a lot of power. And I don't know if you people understand that. Paletti just gave their organization $7 million more. Or, you know, went from $7 million for 2 years spending, now they have 14 point some million. The thing we need to look at is there's more burden being put on the assistance, and there's not the emphasis bringing in positive jobs. We as a city of Willmar, I think, need to look at bringing in jobs that are going to pay more than $7 and $8 an hour. That's the problem. We don't have that. You talked of some good things coming. But again, I go back to studying the program. To be real honest with you, I'm hoping, I talked to his vice chair, Julie. I gave her my 55-page research that I looked at and asked her if they would actually consider removing the twin homes. It's like having a size 10 foot and trying to put a size 7 shoe on. It doesn't fit. Now we talk about we're going to fund money. How long does this grant, how long does the grant go for? How much interest do we pay on this before we pay it back? Can anybody tell me? Mick? How much interest is going to occur if we borrow the money and then we get paid back?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I was reading something here.
Understand. Can you help me? Sure. Yeah.
the city pays no interest. They loan the money to the development, we pay the interest back to the city.
Okay. So how long does a grant good for?
A grant is perpetual.
Oh, it is.
It's given to the city never pays it back.
Okay. Some of the grants I've been involved with other things, in waterfall situations, they have a time period. Thank you. The other thing I was really upset about is our comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan for the city of Willmar. The last one was when Mr. Reynolds was mayor, 1989. That's embarrassing. You have businesses in there that have dissolved, a number of them. That shows on this. And that is not strong and healthy for our community. If a business wants to come in and would look at that, they would think, oh my God, I have all this stuff going, and you know what? There's a change. I think we need to be more abreast at keeping up with a comprehensive plan. Now, I know I sound like I know it all, but I don't. But these are the questions that come up. The other thing that comes up, if we would have had city covenants, we wouldn't have had a lot of this bickering. Matter of fact, in a lot of your other developments, and all the pissing and moaning that's gone on, you wouldn't have had it, because the comprehensive plan should have been put in place. Now, maybe I sound outspoken, but I think we need to look at educating people. The Planning Commission needs to understand Section 42. They need to understand Section 8. They need to I don't know if there's 302s. There's a lot of different things. And I don't think those were explained at that committee or at that meeting. I wasn't there. I was out of town. But the thing where I'm going with this is the more government programs you put in, the more burden you're going to put upon not only us as citizens of Willmar, but actually citizens of Minnesota. So we need to take a look at that. And the other thing that's really sad, almost 50% of your developments going on right now are government funded. That ought to tell us something. That's not strong. So I appreciate you listening. I hope I haven't offended anybody, but please listen.
Thank you, Joe. Just a comment, and that is that in 2008, the Willmar Comprehensive Land Use Plan will be completed. And I understand that's the new plan. All right. Anyone else from the audience wish to address the City Council? If not, we'll move on in the agenda to number 9, which is the Finance Committee report. For just a second here. Where is the information on Westwinds that we're going to deal with later? Is that
12. The plat.
Number 12.
Why don't we deal with that if the council would be okay? That way these people can get on the road. Sure. All right, we'll go to number 12 on the agenda. We'll drop from number 8 to number 12, which is the consideration of a preliminary plat, Westwind Estates, 3rd edition. And Mick, can you comment on that, please?
Bruce, go ahead.
Or Bruce, are you ready to comment on that?
I am now.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Heike, members of the council, Westwind Estates 3rd edition is a 34-lot plat that is consistent with the Westwind Estates 3rd edition housing program, conditional use permit that was approved earlier this evening. This plat is designed to accommodate twin and single family home construction. There has been land set aside for parkland as well as water retention ponds. The Planning Commission approved the preliminary plat with several conditions, such as the addition of utility easements and resolution of a matter that concerns the developers using the southerly 20 feet of the dedicated parkland for public right-of-way, and that would be for 23rd Avenue Southwest. The Planning Commission did not believe this was a major concern because all of that 20 feet is currently within a 110-foot drainage easement that precludes any structures from being developed in it at this point. So It's a recommendation of staff that the preliminary plat be approved.
Thank you, Bruce. Council?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the preliminary plat for Westwind's Estates, 3rd edition. Comment, Mr. Anderson, Councilmember Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know at the Planning Commission meeting, there was a request made that it be looked at to see if the park could be moved to the west. And I don't know what the appropriate timing and place for this would be, and I know, I have a drawing here, that Southwest Minnesota Housing has at least an idea and a concept how that could go. Now, if we approve this, this is the preliminary plat, they could make a change for the final plat. Is that right?
In my opinion, such a change would be of such magnitude that it would require the plat process to begin all over again. Some other things to remember is that the parkland is dedicated, so the council needs to go through a process to vacate the existing parkland. There would be issues involved in transferring title of the parkland to Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. So there are a number of issues that complicate that matter and the timing.
Is timing a problem?
I would say if they wish to have improvements done in the year 2008 to meet the timing for our street improvement project, timing is an issue.
Well, I know that Councilmember Christensen made that suggestion. Others have talked to me about it and said it would be a good idea and a good plan. I think we can jump through the bureaucratic hoops, but I would like to see this pursued for the final plat.
Councilmember Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too have seen what Mr. Goodman presented to Dennis here, and it's a much better layout. They can be a little more creative with the street going over, cutting through the park, and I didn't count. Is it the same number of? Okay. So it's to their benefit. They've increased number, what, 2, 3, 4, what, I didn't even...
2, I believe.
2. They're getting an 2 additional units by revamping this. I don't know if you can see this or not, but I don't think he's going to get any flack from my neighborhood for this. It's a big improvement. And speaking of the paperwork that would have to be done, I believe that on the original plat that we looked at, Bruce had given, the city had given 20 feet of the dedicated park to Southwest Minnesota Housing so they could straighten out 23rd Avenue. Was that correct? Yeah. So I mean, that paperwork, where was the 20? Pardon me?
It becomes city right away.
The 20 feet does. Okay. Okay, so we're taking 20 feet from the park and making it city right away. I mean, technically that probably should have council approval too. That's part of this plat. So we're giving 20, or taking 20 feet from the park and making it city right away. Again, it's dedicated park, and I know we still own the right of way in the park, but it is a change. And I don't think, I like Dennis's idea. I think we can move this through the process, and it's going to appease a lot of people and make this thing a lot friendlier. I think it's a good idea.
Bruce, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I had a short conversation with the Public Works Director during the discussion, and if that is the desire of the council, and if it meets the agreement of Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership, and if all of their improvements would be done under a cash agreement, it would be staff's recommendation that that project be done as a standalone project and not be included in the 2008 general improvement project. Meaning it would have to be let separately at a later date, because of the amount of engineering work that would have to be done on staff's part to accommodate our time frame.
Would it still happen in 2008? Construction 2008?
A lot of that would depend upon how quick the revised plat came back to the Planning Commission and to the engineering staff for their review.
Ron, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This isn't unusual. I mean, we've done this before. Someone is coming in later and we've added a two-way street project, or the same, whoever got the bid for the street project has picked up the new one. I mean, it's not out of the norm. We've done this in the past.
Well, I wouldn't consider it normal, but it's certainly not unprecedented.
Right, right.
The question I have, is this what the partnership wants to do, or are you suggesting we tell them to do this? Go ahead, Rick.
Rick Goodyman, Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. We're not opposed to this. We do believe it's an improvement to the development. We like combining the parkland with the water retention. However, there are a number of issues, one of which is the timing. The other issue is we have been threatened with a suit from Gary Peterson if we alter two of the streets going north and south, so that would have to be resolved. So I'm not sure this will work. And there were a couple of other engineering issues that we talked about. I don't know if you're prepared to speak to those, Chuck. Would that be okay, Mr. Mayor?
Chuck Brandel, INS Engineers and Architects for Mankato. I have the plan here. There are a few issues from there is a drainage easement that goes through this area here, which would need to be vacated. Yeah. And the park would become slightly smaller when you subtract the pond. It'd be larger with the pond, slightly smaller without the pond, by about a quarter of an acre.
Okay. Is it possible to make these decisions tonight, or does this have to go back for some more discussion, or what? Bruce, help us here.
Again, it's a recommendation of staff that the preliminary plat that has been in front of the Planning Commission be approved by the council at this time, and if Southwest wants to come in with something different and begin negotiations or discussions over with the Planning Commission and staff, that's their call. But right now we have a plat application on the table that I believe needs to be addressed by the council.
All right. That's how I read it, that we've got something to deal with here. If you guys want to change it, you got to come back. Or you got to make a bunch of phone calls or something here. Ron, and then Dennis again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The suggestion by Mr. Goodeman to do this is a better plan, as he said. They're adding 2 units, which is going to be, spread the cost out a little more. And if you look on there, you'll see the streets. 23rd doesn't go straight through, so there's a little cul-de-sac there. It's going to eliminate speeding because that is a long street. It's like, 3 blocks long. And to continue through there would make it 4.5 blocks long. So there's a safety issue there. It's a better plan. It's better financing, or they're going to come out better on it. And I think the neighborhood is going to be jubilant about this. I mean, but at least got to be considered.
Okay. Councilmember Anderson?
Well, I pretty much echo that. I think in the interest of harmony and community, we need to approve the preliminary plat, but strongly encourage Southwest to come back in and encourage our staff to expedite this if there's something that can be done and make this work in 2008.
Is that message clear? Okay. So, Kevin, do we have a motion on the table here?
We do, sir.
To approve the preliminary plat.
The preliminary plat.
So the intent of the discussion is to vote on the preliminary plat, but encourage you to make the necessary modifications and move this and come back to Bruce's office. All right? Is that the intent of the council here?
We still need to approve this, so,
Yep.
even though they may change it. I guess I don't understand that.
It's preliminary.
Okay.
It's preliminary,
All
so
right. Yeah. All right.
Well, it's
Being-
preliminary, but as Mr. Goodman stated, they don't know if they're going to be able to accomplish what you're encouraging them to do. So it's appropriate to approve this preliminary plat. If they come in with changes, then we'll deal with them.
All right. Anybody else on the council want to make some comments? Ron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Christensen?
It's okay, Les. Lost my train of thought here. I'll vote for this preliminary plat if we can have some assurance that we're going to try hard to do this new one, and I'm assuming you will. I mean, I guess I shouldn't assume anything, but I'm for that plat, the new one. It looks good. But the preliminary one, how many votes does this take? Is it a simple resolution too?
Simple motion.
4-4, mayor tie break? Yes. And we all knew this was coming. I mean, I would like to hear some more encouragement from staff. Once again, I hear two people say, this is going to make it tough. I don't know if we should do it. The bureaucracy, the paperwork. This is warmer Minnesota. We have to embrace and embrace changes I'm trying to do and make things happen. Mick?
I thought I was very clear. I said that if they come in with a change, we'll find a way to make it happen.
I guess it wasn't clear to me. I want to make sure that they're able to do it in 2008 if that's their goal. And
that was the reason for the suggestion that it likely then would be removed from the 2008 program, and we'd have to redesign and bid it as a separate project, and it's going to come in a little bit later than our normal 2008 program.
Okay, so you're pretty sure that we'll be able to get this done if they decide to change?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I want to hear. Yes.
Mel might not like to hear that, but
he's my neighbor.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Let's vote on this matter. The motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Gardner?
I apologize. I won't take up hardly any time.
No, I know you won't.
I just want to thank Mr. Goodman and his staff for the day after the Planning Commission hearing. They were already working on this request that was so responsibly brought forth by Councilmember Christensen, and I want to thank him for his efforts in that regard as well.
All right. Councilmember Dockin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure this is clear as mud to the folks that are sitting out here. I make that comment because when are we going to get our monitor in here so that we can show the people that are here what we're talking about, plus all the folks that are watching us right now on Rack 18? When is that going to get done?
Soon, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
That's in the capital improvement budget.
Okay.
We just turned the calendar year, so. All right. Now, are we ready to vote?
Yes. Yes.
The motion is to approve the preliminary plat for Westwind Estates, 3rd edition. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Now, Finance Committee report of January 14th. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on our agenda had to do with lawful gambling, and we just reviewed the lawful gambling contributions that had come in during the past month and discussed the relevance of continuing to get that, and it was decided we would continue to get it. That was for information only. The second item had to do with the F-14 project. Staff reported to us that private donations for the F-14 project totaled approximately $33,000, and $35,000 has been spent to date. When you add the city's contribution of up to $25,000, there's a balance available easy to say, of about $23,000 for items that still need to be completed. And those items that need to be completed include installation of lighting, sidewalk, as well as some landscaping around the plain. You'll note that we didn't say anything about a pedestal. That's not in consideration at this time. Staff is requesting authorization to establish a budget for the remaining work. Following discussion, there was a motion made, seconded, and passed, and I would make the motion to authorize staff to prepare a budget for the lighting, sidewalk, and landscaping that remains to be completed around the F-14 displayed at the airport.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for a motion to authorize staff to prepare the budget for these requested improvements. Further comment? Councilmember Dockett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When will this budget be prepared, approximately?
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of the council will prepare the budget immediately and get some estimates and try to complete the work first thing in the spring and then close the project for good. Whatever remains from that $23,000 then would revert back to the city's general fund.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Then we discussed the library reserve account. Staff reported that the fund balance in the library reserve fund totals approximately $285,000. If you remember, this fund was established when we closed out the library's local option sales tax project and was intended to be used for capital improvements. That was for information only. The next item had to do with stormwater funding. We discussed the need to include funding for Grass Lake project as well as funding for other stormwater issues that are faced by us in the city. It was decided that that would be a discussion that would be most appropriate to have this full council at. So we set a city council work session and recommended that that be set, and it has been set for Thursday, January 24th at 5 p.m. Now I see in the agenda that came out it listed 4:45. So is it 5 or 4:45?
When we had talked about the 5 o'clock start time, I believe a notice had already been sent to the media for 4:45, the typical committee meeting schedule, so that it's published as 4:45.
It will be 4:45. That was for information only. The next item were some reports. We looked at reports from the November Rice Hospital, the 2007 interest and dividends, fourth quarter investment activity, December 31st investment portfolio, November Rice Trust. This was all for information. The next item came up under miscellaneous, and it has to do with insurance coverage at community events. Clerk Halliday reported to us that both the Willmar J.C.'s and Willmar Fests have expressed concerns about the cost of insurance premiums that have increased substantially over the last couple of years. The city requires the sponsors of community events to provide proof of insurance for a $1 million policy. In 2007, the J.C.'s provided this coverage, but with a $2,500 deductible. Upon consultation with Attorney Ronning, the city then required the J.C.'s to remit a check for the $2,500 deductible so that the $0 to $1 million coverage was complete. At the meeting, Jim Rudnick of the Willmar J.C.'s requested the city refund the $2,500 that the J.C.'s paid to cover the deductible in 2007 and to request a change in the city's policy of requiring the $1 million insurance coverage with no deductible. If the city would allow a deductible, the cost of insurance premiums would be more affordable, and the J.C.'s could continue to sponsor the downtown block party in June. We tabled that request until our next Finance Committee meeting and asked that Willmar Fest be there as well as Mr. Rudnick, and we also thought that it would be advisable for Attorney Ronning to be there. So this was for information only. Our final informational piece, there was a request to clarify the agreement for lobbying services, and it was explained that the new agreement for state lobbying services for the city of Willmar, Candiotto County, and the Economic Development Commission, and the EDC is taking the lead role on that. Councilmember Christensen questioned how we could measure results achieved by our lobbyists with whom the city has contracted services over the past years. Mayor Heike related some examples that he had experienced and was directly involved with where the city's lobbyists had provided key information at critical instances to various legislators on Willmar's behalf. That concluded the business of the meeting. Unless there's questions, I'd move to file the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file the minutes. Councilmember Reese.
Just one question, Mr. Mayor, and probably is of you or staff, but that same evening we're having our work session is the dental open house. And are we going to be done by 6 o'clock?
Well, your current rules, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, for the work sessions is to limit it to 1 hour from 5 to 6 p.m. The activity to which you referred goes through 7 p.m., so there should be time to get there.
All right, that's all I was concerned about. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilmember Dockett.
4:45.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On item 2, the Library Reserve Fund, it states that it could be used for capital improvements. I think at the Finance Committee meeting, what was the comment that was made there? Capital improvements anywhere within the city or just for the library?
I think, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, that Mr. Dockin is referencing a comment that a staff member made that City Council technically could use that money for any purpose, but at the time the local option sales tax was closed, dedicated those reserve funds specifically to library capital improvements, and that's how it stands today.
That's my recollection.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on the stormwater funding, our work session, is there a reason why we're holding it in conference room 1 that holds about 7 or 8 people? I'm sure that we could have many more than 7 or 8 people that come to want to listen to the discussion. The public is invited to come to those. We've always had them at the fire station. Is there a reason why?
Mr. Mayor, we've always held those work sessions in conference room 2 upstairs, and they're.
Well,
I recognize that as well, and I have kind of the same answer I had for Mr. Anderson when we made these arrangements. The notice had already gone out, and it was published in conference room 1, but there will be a sign directing folks to the upstairs room, which accommodates more people.
all right, thank you.
Anyone else? Those in favor of filing the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next are the Public Works Safety Committee report for January 15th. Councilmember Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on our agenda was the request for 3.2 malt liquor licenses for other than liquor establishments such as the Lakeview Quick Mart. We had City Clerk Halliday there, and he had prepared a summary to review the committee's concerns about the hours and days of operation. The city could be more restrictive than the state statutes, and that the minimum age requirement for clerks to sell the liquor is 18 years of age. The committee discussed the possibilities, and then after that discussion, there was a motion to deny the request to introduce an ordinance for an off-sale 3.2 malt liquor license. So, Mr. Mayor, I would move the recommendation of the committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to deny the request to introduce a new ordinance for off-sale 3.2% malt liquor licenses. Further comment about this? This is a simple motion, Kevin?
Yes, sir.
Those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item was a final payment request for Chester Contracting for the construction of the Civic Center Blue Line building connection, and that project started last February. and is now complete, and the recommendation is acceptance and issuance of final payment. And the final payment consists of retainage held until the punch list is complete. So, Mr. Mayor, I would introduce a resolution to accept the Civic Center Blue Line Building Connection Project and issue final payment to Chester Contracting in the amount of $14,329,000.
No.
14,000. 14 million, yeah. That'd be one heck of a...
Take my second back.
14,000.
It's only money.
All right, we have a motion and a second for a resolution to accept the Civic Center Blue Line Building Connection Project and issue the final payment to Chester Contracting in the amount of $14,329. Further comment? Roll call.
Councilmember Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes.
Then the committee had a continuing discussion in regards to LED street lighting, and we had Jeff Kimpling from the MUC there, and he gave us information, including pricing information. He informed us that the city right now uses high-pressure sodium bulbs and has tried various bulbs and globes to try and get the best lighting. And he informed us that we have 3,100 lights, and municipal utilities would be following LED development and pricing. However, right now that it just isn't in the cards to go that way. But when LED development and pricing gets to a point where it makes it more economical and efficient, they would like to experiment with that type of lighting on shorter poles and also in lighting walkway areas. So that is items for information only. The next item was a report from Craig Holmes of Donahue and Associates in regards to activities that took place in December on the wastewater treatment plant relocation. And the right-of-way and easement acquisition continues. As we know, the first condemnation hearing was scheduled for January 17th, but has been continued. The 95% design is complete, and plans and specifications were sent to staff and the MPCA for review. And workshops will be held in February to review staff comments. The EAW reviewed by MPCA and for public comment is complete. Donahue has prepared a phosphorus trading strategy that will initiate discussions with possible trading partners. And once those are finished, a recommendation for trading will be presented to the council. Funding issues are continuing to be addressed, with more information to be presented at the next committee meeting. In construction, there are currently 3 open contracts, with 1, the interim modifications, soon to be closed. So that's for information only. The next item was a change order number 2, and that's to the second phase of the Southern Interceptor project. And during construction, the contractor found a 21-inch interceptor sewer pipe that had been abandoned in the 1950s, and when they broke it, some very red-colored water came out of it, and they segregated that liquid and did some tests to identify what it was. Then the change order pays for the contractor for the extra expenses incurred to properly, it says cross, isn't it, crush, and further abandon the old sewer line. I would assume that means crush, because that's what they did. They plugged it and they crushed it. So I would introduce a resolution, Mr. Mayor, to approve the change order and to pay the amount of $4,544.53.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution to approve change order number 2 to project 0715 in the amount of $4,544.53. Any other comments? Roll call.
Councilmember Dockin.
Aye.
Bagley.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
The next item was a discussion in regards to stormwater issues, and of course that will be delayed since we will be having our work session on the 24th. Staff is continuing its work on the design of the stormwater detention areas at both Garfield and West Trot Avenue, and they're confident that funding would be available for the projects. In light of the council's discussion or decision to not use gas franchise fees, council members are expected to present alternate funding ideas, and it was noted that staff was also working on financing concepts, including revisions to the previously approved or proposed 2008 improvement activities. And that's for information only. The next item was an application that we received, that the city has received, to keep 30 fowl at 222 Southwest 15th Street. They'd be roofed and caged. We have had this application, my goodness, I don't know, 15 years or more for that same location. There's never been any complaints or difficulties. So, Mr. Mayor, the committee made a motion, and I'll make the same motion here, to approve the applicant's request to house 30 fowl at 222 Southwest 15th Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the applicant's request to house 30 fowl at 222 Southwest 15th Street. Comment? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That was the last item. I'll move to file the minutes. If there's any questions, we'll be glad to take them.
We have a motion and a second to file the minutes. Any other comments? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Community Development Committee report for January 17th. Councilmember DeBleek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item on our agenda was Willmar Municipal Utilities, Candioi County Power Co-op Agreement. Representatives of the MUC were present to review the latest draft of the MUC KPC Service Territory and Annexation Model Agreement. Issues discussed include Midwest Technology Campus facilities, a new airport, proposed wastewater treatment plant, timing for service territory and annexation, street lighting, and clarifications of the agreement language, the annexation fill rate, and the compensation model. Concerns of city staff and the city attorney were the annexation compensation model and lack of an arbitration clause to deal with disagreements. The Power Cooperative has been adamant in opposing the arbitration clause, and it was suggested by City Administrator Schmidt that the 50% fill rate definition be reviewed and modified. Willmar Municipal Utility reps agreed that the definition could be modified, and it was their preference that an example working through the development scenario be included with the agreement as an attachment to the agreement. Because the city is a third party and signatory to the agreement, staff was recommending that the agreements be approved subject to city attorney approval. Following discussion, a motion was made and seconded and passed for the following: that the service territory and annexation model agreements be approved subject to the approval of the city attorney. And I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second. We have a motion and a second that the service territory and annexation agreements be approved subject to the approval of the city attorney. Further comment about this?
Has the city attorney come back with a recommendation?
Not yet. I have a couple comments about this. You know, if the council would recall, quite a ways back, this council directed that Councilmember Reese and our city administrator be involved in the discussion in the development of this new agreement. And I think there were a couple of meetings initially, but then I think the meeting stopped with you two involved. And my own opinion about this, if you want my opinion, which I'm going to give you, is that we should approve this agreement, but I think it needs to be subject to both our city attorney and our city administrator's review and signature on it. Because this is an agreement that takes us way out to 2024. It's very likely that very few of us will be left here at that time. And so we need to make sure that what we leave behind us is a good agreement for both the co-op and for the utilities and for the city. So I think it needs a little more review, and I would encourage the council to approve it on condition that our city attorney and our city administrator review it, and they have to sign off before it is finally put in place.
Mr. Mayor, why don't you add the city finance director to your suggestion?
All right, and the city finance director. And if Mr. Reese wants to tag along, since he was originally assigned, he's welcome to do that too. But I think it is important. This is one of the bigger agreements that we will ever deal with. And we need to be clear how this will carry on into the future. Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is this time sensitive, or is this something that 6 months, a year, what are we looking at?
Well, it depends, I think, on who you ask the question to. If it were presented to the Municipal Utilities Commission and the Power Co-op, I'm sure they would say, the sooner we can get this wrapped up, the better off we're all going to be. They've been working on it for a long time. But I don't think that, contrary to what had initially been requested, it needed to be pushed through and approved tonight. As the mayor mentioned, we have a number of issues that we want more clarification, better definition in the agreement, better structure, if you will. I think that, I won't speak for the city attorney, but for myself, I think that this is a wonderful idea, and I compliment the Power Co-op and the municipal utility folks for having brought it to this point, and they're anxious to get it done. I don't know that there's a deadline that they're needing to meet other than maybe their own personal satisfaction and of having put it to bed. And our review isn't going to take that long. I've talked to the city attorney about this on a number of occasions. We've asked the finance director to review some of the language that talks about the position of the Allied Power and its assets and liabilities, and that we think that could use some clarification as well. But there's nothing major there. I visited with the general manager late this afternoon, who said that he and others with the municipal utilities have been working with the Power Co-op over the last couple days on this definition of a 50% fill rate, which was probably the biggest issue that we've recognized, and that they think they have some language that they've developed that they're hoping that the city will sign off on. Now, I haven't seen it, and I don't think the city attorney has, but I don't expect that this is going to be a long, drawn-out process by any means. But I agree with the mayor. It's a big deal. It's huge for the city and the co-op, and I don't think it's going to hurt to take a few more days just to make sure that everybody's comfortable before signing off on it.
So do we need an amendment or to rephrase the motion?
No, I think it's okay, Ron, Councilmember Christensen, if the council is willing to approve it contingent on these individuals reviewing it and signing off on it. I feel confident that they'll get to that point and be able to sign off, but I think the agreement has come through the process pretty well. I was a little surprised that Councilmember Reese and our city administrator weren't involved, more closely since we had asked them to do that, and they had agreed to that. So I think we're missing a little bit of review here. And I certainly want our city attorney to make sure he's comfortable with it. I think it's probably the biggest contract we will sign so far. I just want everything, all the I's and the dots and the T's and everything. So, any other comments about this? Kevin, do we have a motion on the table or not?
Yes, sir.
And that's to approve it, contingent?
Yes, sir.
Or would the council be willing to add on Mr. Schmidt and Mr. Okens onto that motion with Mr. Rotting? Are you comfortable with that?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Okay. Can we just add that, Kevin?
It should be amendment if we're going to process this properly.
All right.
I'll move to amend to include the finance director and city administrator.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for an amendment to the first motion to include the city administrator and the city finance director to approve and review this contract. Further discussion about that? Those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, that carries. The original motion now, are you ready? Those in favor of the original motion to approve this contract contingent on these three staff people reviewing it. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bruce?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Second item on the agenda was a job business subsidy request. Steve Rehnquist presented a request by Bullock Incorporated Engineering Environmental Services for Jobs designation. The company is relocating to the Midwest Technology Campus, which has been granted job zone status. The project qualifies for jobs under the Minnesota board guidelines. 5 new jobs have been created over the guidelines are that 5 new jobs have to be created over the next year at approximately $11 per hour in order for the company to comply. Failure to comply with will result in the company having to repay all jobs benefits. Mr. Rehnquist said the impact to the city would be negligible as the entire campus is exempt from property taxes by virtue of the jobs or tax abatement. The committee discussed job creation benefits, competition with existing businesses in compliance with the city's business subsidy policy. Staff reminded the committee that the city had never provided a business subsidy for a strictly service business. Staff also raised the issue of competition as there were other civil engineering businesses in the immediate area. Brian Bolog discussed the competition concerns by saying that any qualified business has the option to relocate to the job zone. He told the committee that his average salary paid was in the $50,000 to $60,000 per year range. As a startup company, he said that he has unique costs and challenges that are warranted the Job Z designation. After considerable discussion, there was a motion made and seconded to grant the Job Z status to Bullock Incorporated Engineering and Environmental Services for that business relocation to the Midwest Technology Campus. And I'll introduce that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to grant Job Z status to Bullock Incorporated Engineering and Environmental Services for the business relocation to the Midwest Technology Campus. Further comment? Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I need some clarification from staff. City has never provided a business subsidy for a strictly service business.
Bruce.
Is that per policy or past practice?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff recommended against granting this request because it was our opinion it was contrary to city policy We have never granted the Job Z status to a service industry. We were and I think that it's clear in our policy that we never intended to compete against other like businesses by granting favoritism to one through the Job Z program. Theoretically, those benefits should be available to anyone who would be leasing property at the Midwest campus because of the Job Z status there. That those benefits should be reflected in the lease arrangements with any new tenants that come on board. If they're not, I think that's between the owners of the property and any current or future tenants. And that's why we were recommending that the request be denied.
Wow, I didn't know I was going to get into that when I asked that question. So, I mean, when we're really saying that we're going against our own city policy if we approve this, I guess I have a problem with that.
That's been the dilemma with Job Z across the state, I think, is that it's a good program. It just, sometimes it doesn't seem like it's a level playing field. Any other comments about this motion?
Not a comment, but
Go ahead,
a question. I need to clarify what you said. They would still have the availability of this jobs program just because they're at the technology campus?
I'm saying that theoretically some of those tax and breaks should filter down through the lease process. In theory, they should. I don't know what they are. I don't know what those specific lease arrangements are.
Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mick, just a brief question. Have we had this come to us before and denied other service companies' application under this program?
Not that I recall, a service industry.
So this question hasn't come to us before, and we don't have a precedent to work with?
I'd like to ask Mr. Rehnquist to step up, and Steve, do you want to comment on this? I think you're involved in this.
Steve Rehnquist, 3106 Eagle Ridge Drive West. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I never wish to overtly disagree with city staff.
You don't have to.
However, I believe the Job Z has created a situation that's new for many of us. You know, some of us will recall that we first granted Job Z status to the campus, thinking that we gave, in effect, tax abatement to the whole campus. Then we found out from the state after the fact, you know, that they didn't even know when we first granted it to the campus that the unoccupied buildings didn't have tax exempt status. So we went back and fixed that with a tax abatement for the whole campus. I think the service sector is the most, at least they tell us, is the most rapidly growing segment of the economy. The campus is going to have other job opportunities out there that seem to be in what you might call the service sector. You know, if you call civil engineering, you know, civil engineering isn't a service sector like a caterer would be a service sector, but it does serve other, it doesn't make something, it serves other industries. Mr. Bollig, as a new company, to achieve the Job Z status, because it would be relocation, would be hiring people at a faster rate than you would have ordinarily, just to be able to get that status. And you know, yes, the status or Job Z requires that it pay at least $11 an hour, but that's because it's 110% of poverty level. You heard the job figures that Mr. Bollig would be paying, 40 and 50,000 and up for his people. This is a good business for the technology campus, and it's a good type of business for us to encourage. And I don't disagree with city policy. I do believe it's probably more practice than written policy. It's just that you haven't before. But I think Job Z is opening up things that you haven't done before all the time, and it's going to keep doing that. And if we keep growing the city, then we've all won. And that's all I have to say on that matter. unless there's questions.
Any questions of Mr. Rehnquist? Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What exactly is this company gaining by going there?
When I said there was no consequence to the city, is in Job Z, what the local units of government give up is their property tax. Well, because it's either all Job Z out there or tax abated, that's gone for us. What they get is they save the Minnesota portion of their income tax, of the state income tax, which can be a big thing. They get a rebate on sales tax on consumables used for items that they may purchase for their business. There's that state employee tax that for jobs over $32,000 that they get a refund of that. So those would be the major items. The major item for his company would probably be the income tax, because the property tax has already been considered in the lease rate that the technology campus has offered him.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Dockin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Bollig was at the meeting and made a very fine presentation. Would you allow him to speak on his behalf?
If we need it. I don't know that we need it yet. Any other questions of Mr. Rehnquist?
Thank you, sir.
I have a question of our city administrator. Mick, if this is approved, what is the dilemma that gets set up here? What do we, if this gets approved by the council, what does that do to other requests?
Well, I guess in terms of the service industry issue, you've opened up the door, but then it only applies to areas, of course, where Job Z, where we have a Job Z zone. The comment was made, well, we're not really providing any unfair competitive advantage here because other similar service industries could relocate to the campus and get the same tax advantages. And that's true, they could. So I don't know, maybe in response to your question, we may in some respects be directing traffic out there, and I don't know, is that bad? It might not be for the Midwest campus and other Job Z zone areas, but other areas might not appreciate it.
What I'm thinking about is, like take an accounting firm or a law firm. Would they move out there and vacate their leased property, downtown or something of that nature? Is that the are those the kinds of things that could happen? Is that?
These service businesses that are allowed on the Midwest Technology Campus would be engineering, science-based service businesses. You would not see your typical office-type service businesses such as law firms and accounting firms locate to that campus, because there was a special zoning district created called the Technology District, and they would not comply with that district.
But aren't there businesses out there already that are neither science-based nor technology-based? Aren't there some small businesses out there already?
I don't know what those businesses would be that do not comply, because they've all gone through the Planning Commission for review.
Well, I'm thinking of like Mrs. Ron. I think she does management services or something like that, or recruitment service. I don't know. Steve, do you know? Are there other businesses out there that are non-science and non-technical?
Mr. Mayor and Council, Steve Rehnquist again. It was deemed to be complementary to the campus. Mrs. Ron's marketing service does the marketing for the campus, for instance.
Okay.
And there's a small HR consultant firm that does HR for the advisory for the campus.
Okay.
So it was thought to be complementary to the campus activities.
Thanks. Well, the council, you have to think about, we have a policy. Do you want to fold back on your own policy? Councilmember DeBleek and then Christensen.
Mr. Mayor, we did discuss this extensively at the committee level, and you know, it was the committee's feeling that we should recommend it to the council to pass. And granted, it does go against past practice, past policy of the council, but here we are. Mr. Bullock has to under the Job Z qualifications, he needs to establish at least 5 new jobs in the community. And these are high-paying jobs. They'll be well-secure jobs. And I think the question was asked earlier, where are these high-paid jobs going to come from to buy houses in the community? This is an example of it. This is where they're coming from. If you want to vote against, vote with staff recommendation and say we're not going to apply Job Z status to some of these new startup companies, we're saying, no, we're not going to be creating good, high-paying jobs in this community.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City of Willmar's policy is to not use public subsidy when it will give an unfair advantage to a business or project over other businesses or projects. This proposal by Southwest Minnesota Housing, due to the creative usage of programs that are not available to local sellers of new homes or existing houses, has a definite sales advantage at a time when the housing market is depressed and housing sales are repressed for new and existing homes. So we've already done it tonight.
Councilmember Reese.
Well, I was thinking earlier about when they were talking about this is something we've never done. However, I thought about a number of years ago when we had a concern in regards to the properties that is now known as the Midwest Technology Campus, and we had concerns, what are we going to get in there, and we didn't even know if we were going to be able to fill it. And now we're questioning whether or not we approve this or not. I think it's good for the city. Number 2, Job Z program goes way beyond the city of Willmar. Do we know of any instances where a service-oriented business outside of the city of Willmar has received Job Z status? Can anybody answer that?
In the county? Or statewide?
Sure.
What's your question?
Has Job Z status ever been granted to a service-oriented business? I mean, we're talking about policy within the city, but Job Z goes beyond the city of Willmar.
I don't know that we can answer that question.
Well, I'm wondering if anybody knew. That's why I asked it.
All right. Brian, I'm going to ask you to step up. Brian, would you step up for a minute? How would you get these 5 jobs, and is your business growing that fast?
Mayor, thank you for allowing me to speak. 5 jobs is a lot of jobs for a startup firm. It's a very aggressive growth schedule. We have a tremendous amount of work in right now. We're actively seeking people. We'll be putting ads in, and we've got a couple very significant interests for 50,000 plus jobs coming in to the business right away. So we're excited about it. We've got a lot of neat opportunities out there. The campus gives us a unique opportunity to integrate civil, water, environmental into a rapidly growing ag sector. And that's something that we want to tap. We feel the campus can provide that for us. That's one of its strengths. What we see as Job Z is not a reason to grow, but rather an opportunity to grow. And we're prepared to make the commitment to bring the high-paying jobs, to bring our professionals that grew up in Willmar, to bring them back home.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Council, we have a motion on the table, I believe. Kevin, is that right?
Yes, we do.
All right. Any other comments before you vote on the motion? Anybody else? What's the motion?
Move to approve the recommendation to grant Job Z status to Bullock Inc. Engineering Services.
All right. And that is a motion. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
I hear 7-1. Motion carries. Go ahead, Bruce.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, item 3 on the agenda was Mid-Minnesota Development Commission Professional Services Agreement. Staff presented a request to engage Mid-Minnesota Development Commission for review of the final package of the comprehensive plan. This action had been requested by the Planning Commission, who thought it was important for another review or set of eyes to take a look at the plan, provided critical input. A proposed scope of work had been submitted by Mid-Minnesota Development Commission with an estimated cost of, there's a misprint in the minutes, of the cost should read $6,500. And after considerable discussion, there was a motion made to adopt a resolution approving the professional services agreement with Mid-Minnesota Development Commission and authorize the mayor and city administrator to execute this agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to establish a professional service agreement with Mid-Minnesota Development Commission for the packaging of the comprehensive plan. Further comment about that? Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Larkin.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes.
Motion to file the minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file these minutes. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Reese.
May, point of order, we're coming up on 11 o'clock. We have to have a motion to continue beyond 11 o'clock.
Well, let's see how close we are here.
We'll be done.
We can make it.
You think so?
Let's try. Number 13, consideration of a final plat, the Service Edition. Bruce, can you explain?
Mayor Heike, members of the council, Service Edition is a 3-lot residential plat on Gorton Avenue. The plat took a large unplatted piece of lakeshore and subdivided it into 3 pieces. The 2 outer pieces were each joined with existing residential properties, and it left one good-sized residential lakeshore lot in the middle to be developed. The Planning Commission has approved the final plat, and it's a recommendation of staff that the final plat be approved.
Thank you, Bruce. Council?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the final plat for what's called the Service Edition. Further comment? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next is the consideration of another final plat called the Landmark Business Park. Bruce?
Mayor Heike, members of the council, late this afternoon, the developer of that project requested that the council hold off on approving the final plat. They may come back with a couple other minor adjustments, so there's no action required at this time.
Thank you, Bruce. Next is the consideration of eminent domain resolution. Mick, can you explain that, or Rich, or somebody?
Mayor Heike, members of the council.
Kevin, would you explain it?
Early in October, we adopted a resolution for just compensation, resolution number 3, which listed a variety of owners of property along the wastewater treatment plant interceptor sewer corridor. We followed that up with a just compensation resolution number 4 on December 17th, and the offers have been extended to those property owners. We continue to negotiate. However, we have not successfully completed those for all parcels. We have got a majority of those parcels, and that's good. However, because we are not completed, we're recommending that you adopt a resolution authorizing the attorneys from Kennedy and Graven to file the necessary proceedings to acquire those real estate interests via the eminent domain process, and that will conclude all of our just compensation resolutions and all of our landowners. I believe there's 36 parcels with 26 different owners, and staff's recommending to adopt that resolution and file the necessary paperwork.
Thank you, Kevin. Council?
Move the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution authorizing Kennedy and Graven to file the necessary proceedings to acquire the real estate interest described in the resolution for eminent domain. Further comment, Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Were we still supposed to have an attachment to this, or?
Probably that long thing came in today's mail.
Okay.
No mail yesterday, so we do have it in the packet. It just lists those owners.
Any other comments about this? Roll call.
Councilmember DeBleek?
Aye.
Reese?
Aye.
Christensen?
Aye.
Anderson?
Aye.
Swenson?
Aye.
Gardner?
Aye.
Stockin?
Aye.
Fagerly?
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. We're down to miscellany, the wastewater treatment plant interceptor line. Mick or
Mayor Heitke, members of the council.
Kevin?
As you know, the proposed corridor for the wastewater treatment plant interceptor sewer was a straight line pretty much along 28th Avenue, 30th Avenue in the county and intersecting with our annex parcel out where the brush site is or the new wastewater treatment plant. The council initiated eminent domain, and it was not really until the court date of January 17th that we realized that the petitioners were not so concerned with battling for the location of that corridor as much as the ownership of fee simple or permanent easement. And so, pursuant to the charter requirements that the acquisition be reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission, now that that battle, I believe, is over and we know where we're going and we know the property owners, we'd recommend that the council adopt a resolution submitting the appropriate names to the Planning Commission for review and comment on the acquisition of all those properties.
So you need a resolution?
Resolution to do that, I believe, would be appropriate.
We have a motion.
Second.
And it's been seconded to establish a list of property owners. Is that part of it?
We have the list, but the charter requires that the Planning Commission review the acquisitions prior to the acquisitions being made. And initially, before the court battle, we thought that the corridor might be contested and may be different, may head north, west, south again, and be a whole different group of property owners that the Planning Commission should review. At this point, we no longer believe that to be the case, and we can take those names in aggregate to the Planning Commission.
All right, we have a motion and a second for a resolution for what Kevin just said. Any other comments? Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. Mr. Mayor.
That's why we quit at 11.
I thought you were going to say Ron. The land that we're going to get, the acquisition land, that will be city property, so it'll be like annexed into the city? The corridor that's going through there?
No, sir. The end result has already been annexed at the brush site, the new place. It's a non-contiguous annexation. The right-of-way plats, all 6 or 8 that were adopted by the council, are not subdivisions that are reviewed by the Planning Commission. That's just a path going out there. But the acquisition of those parcels needs to be reviewed by the Planning Commission. So it is not going to be a long string line out there. Some of them are permanent easements because they're over the township road. Some we're asking for fee simple. Some we go through the state land and we just file a permit to go through there.
Okay.
It's a real hodgepodge of activity that we're carrying out there, but it will not be a long contiguous line if that was your concern.
That's
Any other comments? Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify, this is not changing the fact that we are still attempting to acquire those in fee simple.
That battle is continuing, and it'll continue on February 7th.
Thank you for clarifying.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes. Council committee meetings. Finance.
Finance will meet Monday, the 28th at 4:45.
Finance, February 28th, 4:45. Public Works, Public Safety.
Tuesday, the 29th, 4:45.
February 29th, 4:45. Public Works,
January.
Public Safety.
January.
January, you're right. January. Thanks. It is getting
It's
late.
just late.
Community Development.
Not scheduled, Mr. Mayor.
Labor.
No meeting.
And then this Thursday night at
4:45.
Upstairs conference room at City Hall. Work session on stormwater funding.
And Mr. Mayor, just a reminder of the Hawk Creek meeting tomorrow morning.
Okay,
at
do you
the
want
KEC.
to mention that? I got one other announcement here.
The Hawk Creek Watershed Project annual meeting at the KEC tomorrow morning. Rainwater Gardens is one of the topics.
All right, thank you, Steve. I have two
I believe
quick...
also, Mr. Mayor, the council's been invited to a meeting with the county tomorrow afternoon at 1:30, review the Armor radio project.
Review the what?
Armor project.
What's that?
Communications system.
Oh, okay.
I believe I mentioned that.
Is that in the, is that both the city police and the sheriff's department? And that's open to the council members?
Yes, council members are invited.
1 o'clock?
1:30.
At the law enforcement? At the law enforcement?
Operations Center at the Law Enforcement Center.
1:30 on January 23rd. I have two announcements here. They're both COPS meetings. The first one is, let's see here. Oh, the first one is a POW meeting. People on Watch. They'll meet Wednesday, January 23rd at 7 p.m. at the Law Enforcement Center. Again, People on Watch, January 23rd at 7 p.m. at the Law Enforcement. The other is a COPS meeting, and this is for Ward 4, Community-Oriented Policing and Problem Solving, Monday, January 28th at 7 p.m. at Calvary Lutheran Church. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And it's been seconded. We are adjourned.